Chapter 575. The road ahead was rather uneven. The Lu clan and the Yang clan moved slowly. However, even though Chu Qingyan and company were dressed in low-key attire for this trip, their carriages were simple and unflashy. Traveling on these roads was as easy as walking on flat ground. The Lu family was barely able to maintain their speed, but the Yang family slowly fell behind. When they rested for the first time in the afternoon, the Yang family sent people over. They first went to the Lu family and then came to Chu Qingyan's side. Perhaps it was because they had suffered in front of Xiao Su before, so the guard came to find Chu Qingyan. Because our three masters are all women and can't handle the bumps, I hope everyone can match our speed. After all, it will be safer for you to travel with us. Towards the Yang family's guards in politeness, it was as if others should accommodate them. This made Chu Qingyan knit her brows a bit, but seeing the Lu family agree, she did not refuse. If they did encounter bandits along the way, then they had to protect the safety of the citizens. Seeing such rude people, my hands are a bit itchy. Huo Ling pressed his fingers together and the sound of slapping rang out. Turan looked at him. Restrain yourself a bit, a little impatience will spoil great plans. We'll deal with them later. Huo Ling said with a snort. Matching the rhythm of the other two groups, Chu Qingyan's group also slowly slowed down. The three groups walked into the evening without any danger. Everyone stopped to rest in a forest. The three bonfires were quickly lit. Huo Ling and the others had a clear division of labor. Huo Ling led people to hunt and Turan led people to set up camp. The Lu family and Yang family saw that these people were well trained and did things in an orderly manner. They didn't need any instructions from their masters to know what to do, so the masters of the two families were filled with envy. Very quickly, Huo Ling came out with a pheasant in one hand and a rabbit in the other. The subordinates behind him also caught a few fish. There is a river behind us. We're quite lucky, there are quite a few fish. Huo Ling smiled as he walked over. The prey had already been processed and could be roasted over the fire. This time, Chu Qingyan had asked Xining to bring a lot of seasonings, which came in handy at this time. When Turan and the others were on the battlefield, they often roasted animals outside. But after all, they just wanted to fill their stomachs. They didn't care about quality, so Chu Qingyan and Xining took over the task of roasting animals. The aroma of the meat wafted far and wide. The Lu and Yang families ate the food brought out by their own families, and they felt that their mouths had no taste. Seeing this, the young miss of the Yang family couldn't take it anymore and ordered her family's guards to go into the forest to hunt. Unfortunately, these guards didn't know how to hunt, but they couldn't disobey their master's orders and could only bitterly laugh as they entered the forest. After Chu Qingyan finished roasting, she placed the fattest rabbit leg and pheasant leg on a plate and had Huo Ling deliver it to Xiao Su. Then she cut a few pieces and had people deliver them to the Lu and Yang families. The Lu family happily accepted it and even sent people to thank them. However, the Yang family arrogantly rejected them, saying that their guards had already gone in to hunt. They would be able to catch some prey later and would also give them some roasted meat. Since they didn't want it, Chu Qingyan did not force them. She happily enjoyed their dinner. After an hour, the Yang family's guards came back, but it was a pity that their hands were empty. When the Yang family's young Miss Yang Yuhuan saw this, she remembered what she had said in front of Chu Qingyan's group. She instantly felt that her face was a bit ugly and she immediately reprimanded the guards. Those guards were very helpless. They did not know where the prey came from. They searched the entire forest, but other than birds, they could not find anything else. Hearing the Yang family's young miss reprimand, Chu Qingyan smiled. She bit the wing in front of her and ate it with relish. Suddenly, the chicken neck on her plate disappeared and was replaced by a drumstick. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but look at the hand that had yet to be retracted. The firelight kept changing shapes, and when it shone on the white veil, there was a strange gentleness to it. Although she couldn't see his expression clearly, Chu Qingyan's heart was filled with warmth. Thank you. She picked up the big drumstick and took a big bite. No one saw that under the veil, the thin lips revealed a gentle smile. After eating and drinking to her heart's content, Chu Qingyan stood up to check on the situation of the guards and took a walk. Walking to the intersection with the Yang family, Chu Qingyan suddenly heard Yang Yuhuan scolding another young miss of the Yang family. It seemed that Yang Yuhuan was the elder sister. "Xiaohuan, are you deaf? This young miss told you to get warm water. Why are you pouring hot water for this young miss? Are you trying to burn this young miss to death?" "Elder sister, I'll go add some cold water for you." That weak young Xiaohuan immediately picked up the basin and walked to the side. Her steps were unsteady, looking as if she could not stand up to the wind. Lu Shi followed her line of sight and saw this scene. He could not help but walk to her side and whisper, "I heard that this is the Yang family's legitimate eldest young miss and that is the Yang family's concubine's second young miss. On the way here, I've seen Yang family's eldest young miss ordering the Yang second young miss around." Chu Qingyan nodded. In ancient times, the difference between the status of a legal wife and a concubine was not just a little bit. And the distinction between legitimate and concubine was even more clear. This was related to the inheritance of property and bloodline. However, this Yang family's eldest young miss was too overbearing. She had a servant girl by her side but did not order her around. Instead, she loved to torment this concubine's younger sister. It seemed that she was not very broad-minded. But this was other people's family matter. Chu Qingyan did not pay much attention to it. Just as she was about to turn around and go back to rest. At this time, young Xiaohuan, who was holding a basin of water and walking over shakily, suddenly lost her footing and almost fell down. Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. With one hand, she quickly caught the basin of water that was flying in the air. Then, she spun around and landed to support Yang Xiaohuan's arm, using her strength to support her body. She did not forget that she was currently a man, so when Yang Xiaohuan steadied herself, she immediately let go of her hand and retreated to a safe distance. Then, she placed the basin of water in her hand in front of Yang Xiaohuan. "Miss, please be careful when you walk." Everything happened in a flash. Everyone only saw a blur in front of their eyes and the two people were already standing there steadily. Yang Xiaohuan looked at the man in the silver mask in front of her and suddenly felt that her eyes were dazzling. She immediately lowered her head and reached out to take the basin of water. She stammered, Thank you, young master. It's nothing. Quickly go back, otherwise the water will turn cold." Chu Qingyan waved her hand carelessly and then quickly returned to her own camp. She walked quickly and did not see Yang Xiaohuan's adoring gaze as she looked at her back. But just because she did not see it, it did not mean that no one else saw it. Xiao Su snorted coldly and muttered in his heart. How could one moment be an uncle and the next moment be a young lady? How many people did this little guy provoke? At this time, Chu Qingyan did not know about this. She looked around and pondered in her heart. The moonless and windy night was the best time to kill and rob. If there were really bandits, they would not let go of such a good opportunity today. About the little madman and little Qing, many people wanted to know what happened to this couple, and now it was time to unravel the mystery. After the incident in the Shang Kingdom's palace, Dugu Qing hugged Yi Lingfeng's body and cried. When Qing Yanluo received the news of Yi Lingfeng's assassination, she immediately rushed to the Shang imperial palace. When she arrived at the main hall, she saw Dugu Qing, who was in a daze, and Yi Lingfeng, whose eyes were tightly shut. Qing Yanluo's mouth twitched. "Little Qing, let go of young Master Yi first. Otherwise, he can't breathe like this." I won't. Ah, what? He's still alive. Dugu Qing blinked and looked at Qing Yanluo innocently. Yes, put him down quickly. Otherwise, even if the Daluo immortals arrive, they won't be able to save him. Qing Yanluo squatted down and opened her medicine box. Dugu Qing immediately let go of Yi Lingfeng and squatted aside, looking at the person on the ground nervously. He lost too much blood. He's lucky. The dagger sank into his back, but it didn't hurt his vitals. It has something to do with the position of his heart. It saved his life at the critical moment. Cheng Yanluo checked and began to stop Yi Lingfeng's bleeding. Du Guqing took a deep breath. She was scared to death. But whether he can wake up or not depends on fate. Cheng Yanluo's words successfully made Du Guqing's heart hang in suspense. Lingfeng, I will definitely let you live. Du Guqing reached out to hold his hand and said firmly in her heart. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. Du Guqing had already woken up. He took over the political affairs of his royal sister and began to take care of them. Du Guqing didn't have to dress up as a man anymore. However, she stayed in the palace all day long, taking care of Yi Lingfeng tirelessly. Yi Lingfeng was unconscious for several days, but there were still no signs of him waking up. Du Guqing was so anxious that she couldn't eat or sleep well. One day, Du Guqing entered the palace and saw his royal sister wiping Yi Lingfeng's cheeks. He was instantly jealous. Royal sister, you haven't been so gentle with me in a long time. I object. Du Guqing sat down at the side, looking very unhappy. Du Guqing glanced at him. Are you saying that I'm usually very fierce? Du Guqing choked. He didn't say that. However, his royal sister did look very fierce at this moment. Once this person is cured, send him away. He doesn't have a legitimate status. It's bad for your reputation if he sleeps in your palace. Du Guqing seemed to have found an excuse and immediately raised his voice. Royal brother, can you not be so childish? He's still injured. Du Guqing felt that her royal brother, who was so steady in front of outsiders, was always acting like a little brat in front of her. Du Guqing snorted. Now you're scolding me because of him. Who knows what you'll do to me in the future? No, to get rid of future troubles, I have to send him away. Scold him. Childish? Her royal brother was indeed childish. Little Qing can't bear to. A voice suddenly sounded between the two. Who says she can't bear to? She can't bear to part with her brother. Du Guqing immediately retorted. However, the moment he said that, the two froze. The siblings turned to look at the person on the bed at the same time. They saw the person on the bed blinking his peach blossom eyes and smiling evilly. Du Guqing was pleasantly surprised. She then reached out to hold his hand, unable to speak. Du Guqing was happy at first, but when he saw his royal sister's excited look, he became unhappy again. Yi Lingfeng, once you're cured, immediately return to your Jiang country. Your Highness Crown Prince, I'm your brother-in-law. Be good, call me brother-in-law. Yi Lingfeng acted like he didn't hear his unfriendliness and spoke to him like he was coaxing a child. Du Guqing's face instantly turned green. When he saw his royal sister wholeheartedly focused on Yi Lingfeng, he suddenly felt like his own cabbage had been eaten by a pig. He stood up abruptly and left in a huff, not caring about the two anymore. The big light bulb finally left. Yi Lingfeng breathed a sigh of relief and turned his gaze to the person in front of him. Looking at her haggard appearance, if someone didn't know better, they would think that she was the one who was injured. Yi Lingfeng said emotionally, Little Qing, I'm still alive. I'm not dead. I have eyes to see. I don't need you to explain. Du Guqing suddenly stopped crying and looked at him calmly. Yi Lingfeng looked at her with a gentle expression. Little Qing, I know I've made you sad. Can you give me a chance? But you've rejected me so many times before. Do you think I'll give you a chance so easily? Du Guqing raised her brows and looked at him. Then you can get it back from me with interest. He curled his lips. With interest? Du Guqing rubbed her chin and narrowed her eyes. You've rejected me 72 times in this half a year. With interest, I'll count it as 100 times. So if you don't confess to me 100 times for me to reject, then there's nothing to talk about. She wouldn't let him get away with it so easily. Looking at the swaying finger in front of him, Yi Lingfeng couldn't help but facepalm. Why did he provoke such a fussy girl in the first place? Forget it, since I've chosen, I'll just accept it. Isn't it just 100 times of expressing my feelings? If I don't believe it, could it be that I'm an expert in love? But before that, I'll steal a kiss first. If the feelings were still there, even if they went around in circles, they would still meet again. Chapter 576. Turan and Hualing were responsible for taking turns to guard. Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan had already entered their respective tents to rest. Although it was already spring, the night in the forest was still very cold. Chu Qingyan wrapped the blanket tightly around herself. She was on high alert, not daring to fall asleep. In the other tent, Xiao Su opened his eyes and looked up. He could already hear the little fellow's shallow breathing. He couldn't help but recall the past. Back then, she didn't dare to sleep alone and climbed into his tent. Now that she was outside, she dared to bear it alone and didn't stick to him like before. This kind of feeling was somewhat gratifying, but also somewhat unpleasant. Clearly, watching the little fellow grow up was something he had always wanted to do in the past. But now that the little fellow had grown up, he fell into a kind of daze where he didn't know what to do next. He had always had a plan for his life, but it didn't work when it came to the little fellow. This kind of feeling made Xiao Su feel somewhat unfamiliar. It was as if something was excluded from his plan, which made him very unhappy. In the dead of night, from far to near, a series of footsteps quickly approached. Xiao Su put away his thoughts and narrowed his eyes. Chu Qingyan, who had just fallen asleep, was a very light sleeper. When she heard the movement, she immediately got up. Although there were many people coming and they were all martial artists, Chu Qingyan and the others still noticed their movements. Little Gongzi, they're here. Hua Ling's voice sounded from the tent. And, everyone act according to the plan. Quietly wake up Lu Shi and the others. Chu Qingyan said to Hua Ling across the tent. She could feel that the Lu and Yang families were still in a deep sleep. Although waking them up wouldn't have much of a deterrent effect on the bandits, because the bandits knew that the three groups had a lot of people and still dared to make a move, it proved that they weren't timid. However, it was still to prevent the Lu and Yang families from panicking. Ha ha ha, this road was opened by me. These trees were planted by me. If you want to pass this road, pay the toll. A fair and graceful lady is a good match for a gentleman. There's a good man here. Miss, stay. Chu Qingyan was about to step out of the tent when she heard those two rude words. She stumbled a little as she tried to leave the tent. Hooligans were actually not scary. What was scary was that hooligans were cultured. Although the last sentence wasn't very neat, it was still difficult for these uneducated people. At this time, the Lu and Yang family were already in a mess when the other party appeared. The women hugged each other and cried, while the guards trembled with fear as they held their swords and faced the burly men in front of them. Chu Qingyan walked out of the tent and squinted at the people in front of her. 30 to 40 strong men surrounded the three groups of people in a circle, holding large swords in their hands. The thugs all looked cold and emotionless, and the few people in the lead had peachy expressions. They kept looking at the ladies of the Lu and Yang families, causing the ladies to quickly hide behind their own families. Their bodies trembled and they looked pitiful, satisfying the self-satisfaction of these bandits. Chu Qingyan sized up these people. They didn't seem to be afraid of their faces being exposed at all. None of them covered their faces and openly revealed their true appearances. Chu Qingyan thought to herself, are these people really bold and fearless, or are they fearless? One of the men with 2 scars on his face said, you all know the rules of the underworld. Put down your weapons. Then, the women will stand on one side and the men on the other. Put your belongings in the middle. Kill anyone who resists. Don't even think about it. One of the Yang family's guards said angrily. But in the next moment, one of the bandits standing beside them raised his large sword and slashed down. Just as the guard finished speaking, his head fell off and blood splattered all over the ground. Ah, the screams of the women rose and fell. The timid people present were so scared that their legs turned to jelly. As if they were used to the helpless screams of the prisoners, the bandits each revealed a sinister smile and then gave the order to start the robbery. Immediately, cries and pleas for mercy rang out. "Stop, who gave you the courage to disregard human lives and disregard the law?" Chu Qingyan stood up and looked coldly at the few men in the lead. "Yo, there are still people who stand up for injustice. Arrogant brat who is still wet behind the ears, are you still unable to see your situation clearly? Put down your weapons obediently, and I'll let you die a quick death later." The 2 scars on the man's face pointed the large sword in his hand at Chu Qingyan, his face full of disdain. He felt that this bean sprout-like figure was not enough for him to pinch with 2 fingers. Chu Qingyan sneered and didn't waste any more words with them. She immediately ordered, "Do it, capture them alive." "Yes." Huo Ling, who was standing behind her, led people to kill the bandits in all directions. Chu Qingyan pulled out her soft sword and jumped in front of the 2 scars on the man's face. Her sword was sharp and she didn't show any mercy. The man immediately took 2 steps back and raised his sword to block. This unforeseen event caught everyone a little off guard. No one thought that Chu Qingyan and the others would take the initiative to attack, and they were so aggressive too. "Each family's guards, protect your masters well." Chu Qingyan took the time to warn them because she found that these people were all stunned in place. If it wasn't for the fact that they were fighting, she would have facepalmed inside. Chu Qingyan's words made everyone come back to their senses and they immediately gathered together. At this time, they saw a quiet place and it was very abrupt. That was Chu Qingyan's master. She usually didn't come out of the carriage and she was currently wearing a gauze hat with several guards following her. These people were all very tall and powerful. They were all dressed in black and had a fierce aura around them. Although the person in the lead was wearing a gauze hat, she had a kind of powerful aura that even the white gauze couldn't hide. Just standing there, she had a kind of casual and domineering aura. In this chaotic battle, this person's surroundings seemed to have become the safest place and those bandits didn't dare to rashly approach him. Thus, everyone ran and crawled to his side and those bandits who were chasing after him were all defeated by the mysterious man's guards as expected. Yang Yuhuan originally looked down on this group of people because from their clothes and carriage, they didn't seem to be from a large family. She had never placed these kind of poor people in her eyes. But she didn't know why, in this chaotic moment of life and death, this person stood there as if he was the only one in the world who was supreme and aloof from the world, making her unable to shift her gaze away. It was as if he was the only one shining in the whole world and everyone else was dim. Xiao Su felt that this somewhat irksome gaze, but he was already used to it. He couldn't take his eyes off the little fellow who was swimming around in the crowd. At this time, a gust of night wind blew and inadvertently blew up the white gauze under the gauze hat. Yang Yuhuan secretly stared at him at this time and just happened to see that white gauze lifted up, revealing that exquisite and perfect side profile. He was like a celestial being and she was immediately stunned. Chapter 577. Ah! Suddenly, a scream exploded in Chu Qingyan's ears. She turned around and saw a wretched bandit reaching out to grab Yang Xiaohuan, and there was no one around her to protect her. Chu Qingyan did not hesitate and waved away the broadsword in front of her. She jumped in front of Yang Xiaohuan and kicked away the bandit's hand. Then, with a shoulder throw, the bandit was fiercely thrown to the ground by Chu Qingyan. Soon after, he was pressed down by Xiao Lai with his sword, unable to move. At this time, Chu Qingyan turned around to look at Yang Xiaohuan, her thin shoulders trembling. "Miss Yang, are you all right?" The petite person raised her head in a panic, her eyes filled with fear. When she saw that the person standing in front of her was the silver-masked youth and not that terrifying bad guy, she immediately heaved a sigh of relief and then suddenly fell down. Chu Qingyan was caught off guard and immediately reached out to support her. She found that she had only fainted and was not injured, so she called over a servant of the Yang family to help her away and then continued to join in the fight. Although these bandits looked valiant and strong, their strength was not proportional to their appearance. In other words, they did not encounter the unarmed civilians of the past, but the fierce cavalry that had experienced hundreds of battles. Therefore, they were quickly defeated. 30 to 40 bandits did not escape the net and were all captured. Chu Qingyan kept her sword and then walked back to Xiao Su's side. When she passed by Yang Yuhuan, Chu Qingyan saw that her gaze was fixed on her big ice block and suddenly felt strange. But she did not think too much about it and said to the big ice block, "They've been captured. And, let's go and take a look." Xiao Su brought people over. "Who are you people? Don't you know my name, Tiger Wang's name? If you know what's good for you, quickly let us go and then take out all your belongings. I will let bygones be bygones." It was the man with the 2 knife scars who shouted. Xiao Lai kicked over, and the man who called himself Tiger Wang quieted down. But when Xiao Su walked in front of them, Tiger Wang started again. "Which Dao do you belong to? Don't you know my relationship with Lord Wang?" Tiger Wang was not willing to give up. He felt that these people were not dressed as luxuriously as the Yang family, so they definitely did not have any status. He was only able to capture them because of his good movement skills. If these people knew his identity, they would definitely piss their pants in terror. "Which road are we on?" "Turan, this man is asking where we are from." "How should we answer?" Hua Ling couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. This was his first time seeing such a muddle-headed person. She had already become someone else's prisoner, yet she still had the guts to shout at them. "We are on the official road." Turan couldn't help but say. Wang Laohu was confused. "On the official road? Is this a new one? Why haven't I heard of it?" 7-star kicked Big Dipper. "Our master is here. Watch your mouth." These people didn't seem to be threatened by him, so Tiger Wang restrained himself. He settled for the next best thing and turned to negotiate with Xiao Su. "Brothers, no discord, no concord. Let us go, and we'll split the silver we've collected with you 50-50. How about it? It's not easy to make a living." As soon as Tiger Wang finished speaking, the lackeys tied up behind him immediately nodded in agreement, completely losing their arrogance from before. Xiao Su ignored his words and asked with a cold gaze, "Who is Lord Wang?" When Wang Laohu saw that he had taken the initiative to ask, he thought that he was afraid. He immediately straightened his back and said proudly, "Lord Wang is the highest-ranking official in Li City." "Magistrate of Li City, are you afraid?" Chu Qingyan was really worried about this bandit leader's IQ. He still didn't forget to brag even when he was about to die. Li City's magistrate, Wang Gung, has been in office for 6 years. He's in charge of managing Li City and the surrounding towns, Turan reported to his master. Xiao Su nodded and continued to look at Tiger Wang. "What's your relationship with him?" Tiger Wang chuckled. "He's my younger brother." "What do you think our relationship is?" Xiao Su narrowed his eyes. "I see. Turan, take these people away and eradicate the mountain stronghold. Arrest everyone involved and hand them over to Lu Rui. Give him full authority to deal with them. This prince doesn't want these parasites who help the tyrant to live in this prince's fiefdom." "Yes." Turan accepted the order and directed his men to take the bandits away one by one. "This prince? Fiefdom?" Wang Laohu immediately collapsed to the ground. Could it be that this person was His Highness Prince Ing who had lost his power? He really stepped on the Hades Lord. After the bandits were taken away, the forest regained its tranquility. However, the sound of sobbing and whimpering could still be heard. It seemed that these womenfolk were really frightened. After the bandits were taken away, a space was cleared in front of Chu Qingyan. The Lu and Yang families immediately supported each other as they walked over, their faces still showing lingering fear. "Little brother Chu, you guys are really amazing. You immediately arrested these heinous bandits who helped the tyrant do evil. Sure enough, it was the right choice to team up with you." Lu Shi walked over, his words full of admiration. As soon as Lu Shi walked over, the two families expressed their gratitude and praise. Chu Qingyan smiled. Uncle Lu is too kind. Then where are you taking these people? The young family guard who came to negotiate with Chu Qingyan before asked. We'll hand them over to the authorities. They'll make the decision. A country has its laws and a family has its rules. We commoners can't punish them in private, Chu Qingyan replied. At this time, Huo Ling walked over with medicine in his hand. He said to everyone, if anyone here is injured, you can bring this one here to get some medicine and bandages. Treat them a bit and wait until we reach Li City before going to the medical hall for treatment. Huo Ling's words attracted the attention of most people. In the fight just now, other than Xiao Lai-chi who wasn't injured, the two families' guards were more or less lightly injured, so everyone began to busy themselves. Chu Qingyan saw that everyone was busy and prepared to return to her team. At this time, a soft female voice sounded in Chu Qingyan's ears. This little brother, this little girl wants to personally thank your young master. Can you introduce me? Chu Qingyan turned around and saw that it was the Yang family's first daughter, Yang Yuhuan. She couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. Didn't this person always disdain to be with them? Why did she suddenly take the initiative? However, Chu Qingyan still politely declined, it's just a small matter, not worth mentioning. It's late at night and the dew is heavy. Miss should go back and rest early. When Yang Yuhuan heard her words, her expression changed slightly. She had a gentle appearance just now, but now she raised her chin slightly and had a domineering look. You're just a servant and didn't ask your master. What right do you have to answer for him? In this young lady's opinion, you should go and report to your master before replying to this young lady. Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. Yo, this person's tone wasn't small. Chapter 578. Chu Qingyan crossed her arms and looked at her. Miss Yang, if you want to thank me, then you don't have to. Ha, it's not up to you to interfere in the matters between me and your master. Yang Yuhuan felt that this person was just a little bitch. If she was in the Yang family, who would dare to disobey her? Qinghua and Cicada were cleaning up the place. They heard the conversation between the two and couldn't help but look at each other. This girl from the Yang family was quite bold. She actually dared to pluck hair from their little princess consort's head. Did she want to make things difficult for them? So Qinghua and Cicada walked forward. Qinghua coughed softly and said, Young master, how should the guards set up the defense? Cicada continued, a tent was damaged during the fight just now. I'm afraid that young master will have to go to the carriage to rest later. Chu Qingyan looked at the two. It seemed a little strange that they came over to report this at this time because this could be directly handed over to Turin. However, when she saw the two people winking at Yang Yuhuan with their backs to her, Chu Qingyan, who had been in tacit understanding for many years, immediately understood their meaning. They were trying to get back at her for her sake. It was difficult for these two straightforward people to think of this method. It was much better than their previous straightforward approach. Chu Qingyan was amused by their quick-wittedness, but she still answered them dutifully with a straight face. After they left, Chu Qingyan looked at Yang Yuhuan again. Yang Yuhuan was originally disdainful of this person, but when she heard her subordinate's respectful attitude towards her, her expression turned ugly and a little embarrassed. This was what Qinghua and Cicada wanted to achieve. Look, the person you look down on has a very high status in our place. You little brat, go back to where you want to cool off. Wait for the little princess consort to counterattack. Since it's inconvenient for your master, then, Yang Yuhuan wanted to retreat. Chu Qingyan raised her hand to stop her and said with a smile, since Miss Yang came here with such sincerity, how can I let you come here for nothing? This way please. The surprise came too suddenly, and Yang Yuhuan was about to give up. Who knew that luck would come? She maintained her ladylike demeanor and nodded reservedly. Then I'll have to trouble you. Just now, you were still calling me, and now you're calling me a little brother. Can you not change your attitude so quickly? However, what Chu Qingyan was curious about was why this person was looking for a big ice cube. Chu Qingyan nodded and led Yang Yuhuan towards the people by the bonfire. Young master. Chu Qingyan walked behind Xiao Su and called out. After dealing with the matter, the young princess went to talk to the housekeeper of the Lu family and did not come back. Xiao Su's face was dark the whole time, and Turan and the others had already retreated, hoping that the young princess would come back soon. At this time, Xiao Su heard her voice and his complexion improved a lot. He slowly turned around and was about to say a few words to her when he saw Yang Yuhuan standing behind her. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. What kind of messy woman did this little fellow provoke for him? You know you're back. We still have to hurry on with the journey tomorrow, go back and rest early. Xiao Su finished speaking and was about to leave when he heard Yang Yuhuan speak. Young Master Xiao, this little girl is Yang Yuhuan, a family member of the magistrate of Fu City. I'm here to thank young master for saving me tonight. Yang Yuhuan saw that he was about to leave, so she immediately walked in front of him and blocked his way. Then she slightly lowered her head and said with a smile. The people around her all said that her graceful neck looked the best when she showed this action, so she deliberately turned her body slightly to show her best side in front of him. Although she only saw the side of his face, just looking at the side of his face was enough to make her mesmerized. If she could catch a glimpse of his full face, then what kind of country-toppling appearance would it be? Yang Yuhuan thought that she had seen many men, but no man could have such a cold temperament, confident posture, and peerless elegance like him. She, who thought highly of herself, couldn't help but be subdued by that one glance. The young girl's heart fell because of this. However, the person in front of Yang Yuhuan was not an ordinary person, but Xiao Su, who always kept women at arm's length. Of course, except for Chu Qingyan. It was his characteristic to be unromantic. With just one word, Xiao Su sent her away. He didn't even look at her because he never paid attention to insignificant people. Chu Qingyan secretly laughed. Sometimes, she didn't even need to do anything. The big ice block could get rid of people in minutes. Instead of fighting back, she might as well push the boat with the current and hand the person over to the big ice block. With such a cold tone, it was obvious that the other party didn't have any intention to chat. Yang Yuhuan couldn't help but change her expression. Why didn't this person even reply with a word of courtesy? However, Yang Yuhuan didn't feel frustrated because of this. She raised her head and said with a smile, Young Master Xiao, it's late at night and you've also been tormented for an entire night. This young lady has boiled some brown sugar ginger water. If young master doesn't mind, this young lady will have someone send it over to let young master warm your body so that you can sleep more comfortably later. Take it as an expression of this young lady's family's gratitude. Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows. Even sending a drink over, what was this young lady of the Yang family trying to do? Could it be that she had taken a fancy to her big ice block? But wasn't he obviously ignoring them earlier? Why did he change after a fight? Could it be that something had happened earlier that she didn't know about? At this moment, Xiao Su had already opened his mouth, warm my body. Seeing that he had spoken, Yang Yuhuan was overjoyed, but she restrained her joy and nodded, brown sugar ginger water can drive away the cold. Chu Qingyan snorted in her heart. Just a bowl of brown sugar ginger water was enough to bribe him. Wasn't it too easy? What happened to being cold and aloof and keeping people 1,000 miles away? Xiao Su nodded and pointed to the person beside him, give her a bowl. He remembered that the little fellow seemed to still be in that period of time, so drinking some of this would be quite good. Thinking of this, Xiao Su suddenly remembered that she was still riding a horse today, and immediately said coldly, you're not allowed to ride a horse for the next 2 days. After saying all this, Xiao Su then left with peace of mind. Yang Yuhuan didn't react in time, while Chu Qingyan was slightly stunned. Seriously, the big ice block, he even wanted to interfere in this kind of thing. However, she immediately turned her head and smiled at Yang Yuhuan, who was stunned on the spot, and said, then I'll have to trouble Miss Yang. Yang Yuhuan was a little confused. This young Master Xiao was quite considerate to his subordinates, she really couldn't tell. However, when she saw Chu Qingyan, her expression became a little ugly. This servant had really taken advantage of her. However, she could also see that this Chu Qingyan was a popular person in front of young Master Xiao. If she wanted to get close to young Master Xiao, it seemed that she had to spend some effort on Chu Qingyan. "Miss Yang, my young master has asked me to accompany you to bring the brown sugar water. This way, please." Cicada had already swiftly walked in front of Yang Yuhuan, blocking her reluctant gaze. Yang Yuhuan's expression changed. How impatient! At this moment, young Master Xiao had already disappeared. She bit her lip and turned back somewhat unwillingly. It didn't matter. The road was still long, there was still a chance. Chapter 579. Because the tent was damaged in the fight, Chu Qingyan wanted to return to the carriage to rest, but Big Ice Cube told her that Big Ice Cube had already given his tent to her and was sleeping alone in the carriage. Chu Qingyan was a bit moved. She was lying in the brocade quilt that he had just laid in, and she was filled with his refreshing scent. She didn't know if it was because of the ginger soup or something else, but she felt strangely warm. The familiar scent and scene reminded her of the first time she went camping in the wilderness. She was so scared that she knocked on Big Ice Cube's tent in the middle of the night. Back then, she was just giving it a try. After all, Big Ice Cube usually appeared arrogant and cold in front of everyone, but she didn't expect that he would really open his tent and accept her. Moreover, she even coveted the delicious taste of his skin and took a bite. Cough cough, she really admired her past self for having the courage to bare her teeth in front of a tiger. But did she still have the courage from back then? When she heard him say those words, her complacent thoughts had been beaten back. If she hadn't happened to pass by his study window back then, would she have been able to deceive herself for a while longer? Chu Qingyan hugged the brocade quilt and was at a loss because this was an unknown answer. "Then how do you feel about the little princess consort, master?" "More like a little sister." Suddenly, a gust of wind blew in and scattered the scent inside. She suddenly recalled a very popular phrase on the internet in the past. "Walking and walking, you disappear. When I turn around, I realize you're gone. I'm suddenly confused." This phrase was very suitable for her current mood. But she didn't know what answer she was waiting for. That answer that was more like a little sister made her very sad. Chu Qingyan sighed when she couldn't even figure out her own thoughts. "Forget it, I'll just keep lying to myself. I'll think about it again when I have nowhere to hide one day." She convinced herself, and then slowly fell asleep. She didn't have any dreams until dawn. Early in the morning, the Lu family and the Yang family sent a lot of things to express their gratitude, but Chu Qingyan rejected them all. It wasn't because they were polite, but because they really didn't need it. At noon, they arrived at Li City. Lu Shi stopped at the city gate and expressed his deep gratitude to Chu Qingyan and her entourage on behalf of his master. He also tried his best to invite them to his residence as guests. However, Chu Qingyan declined with the excuse that she was in a hurry. Lu Shi expressed his regret and thanked her profusely. He even left behind his address and said that he would visit the residence again when he was free. Chu Qingyan accepted with a smile. Who knows if there would be any future dates? After entering the city, Yang Yuhuan sent a guard to pass on a message. Because they had seen Chu Yan's valiance last night, the Yang family's guards' attitude towards them had changed. They no longer looked down on them. "Little brother Chu, our miss said that she has already found an inn. Since we have to travel together, why don't we stay together?" Chu Qingyan didn't care. She asked Big Ice Block. Seeing that he didn't object, she agreed. As soon as they arrived at the inn, everyone planned to have lunch. Just as Chu Qingyan was about to sit down and wait for her food to be served, two ladies stood beside her. Chu Qingyan looked up and saw Yang Yuhuan and Yang Xiaohuan. She was a little surprised. "Don't the two misses need to eat?" Yang Yuhuan's face was slightly bitter. "This inn's business is so good that there are no seats downstairs. So, can this little girl and my sister share a table with young Master Xiao? Chu Qingyan looked around. Indeed, all the tables were full. Madame Yang had already gone upstairs to rest because she was tired from the journey. Originally, Chu Qingyan wanted to say that the two of them could go to their rooms and order more food, but seeing that they were both young girls, she felt that it would be too straightforward. She couldn't help but say, if the two of you don't mind, you can eat together. After agreeing, Chu Qingyan suddenly remembered something. Her big ice block didn't like to eat at the same table with others. She coughed and looked at the person beside her with some regret. Xiao Su originally didn't like to eat at the same table with others. But seeing that young Xiaohuan's eyes had been glued to the little fellow from time to time after being saved twice by him, he felt a little uncomfortable. Now that he saw her eating at the same table with the little fellow, he resisted the urge to get up. Chu Qingyan saw that her big ice block didn't get up in anger and was relieved. Then, she immediately said to the two Miss Yang, my young master doesn't like to eat at the same table with others. How about I order a few other dishes for you? No need, no need. We'll do it ourselves. Yang Yuhuan was already very satisfied to be able to find a chance to get close to young Master Xiao. She immediately called the waiter and ordered the dishes she wanted to eat. Chu Qingyan saw that Yang Yuhuan only ordered the dishes she liked and didn't even ask her stepsister. She couldn't help but shake her head. Yang Xiaohuan was originally a little embarrassed. She didn't know why her elder sister would suddenly think of sharing a table with little brother Chu. Moreover, along the way, her elder sister had been paying attention to young Master Xiao and ordered people to inquire about him. Yang Xiaohuan was more naive and didn't understand. But she was very happy to be able to be together with little brother Chu. In her heart, Chu Yan's position was not ordinary. He didn't need to secretly look at her and could eat at the same table with her openly. Yang Xiaohuan was very grateful to her elder sister. Although this inn's business was very good, the speed of the dishes being served was very fast. However, Yang Yuhuan, who had been racking her brains to think of a way to talk, saw a scene that she didn't expect. Young Master Xiao actually personally helped Chu Yan to serve the dishes. Although the two of them didn't communicate, they were obviously used to it. How could a master personally do this kind of thing for a servant? Yang Yuhuan was completely stunned. Yang Xiaohuan, who was at the side, saw that her elder sister kept staring at the other person and felt a little impolite. She whispered a reminder, elder sister, it's time to eat. Yang Yuhuan's train of thought was interrupted and she glared at her stepsister with some dissatisfaction. Then, she rolled her eyes and pretended to kindly remind Xiao Su, young Master Xiao, it's very inconvenient to eat with a veil on. Why don't you take it off? Last night's fight had consumed a lot of energy. Today, they had rushed for half a day. Chu Qingyan was already so hungry that her chest was sticking to her back. At this time, she was immersed in eating. Suddenly hearing Yang Yuhuan's words, she was a little surprised. She raised her head from the rice and looked at Yang Yuhuan with narrowed eyes. Yang Xiaohuan was also a little surprised. Elder sister's words were too bold, right? He didn't seem to be familiar with them, but Yang Xiaohuan never dared to have any objections to her elder sister's way of doing things. She continued to bury her head in eating. When Xiao Su heard that, he didn't do anything. Instead, he continued to eat. From time to time, he would serve Chu Yan food, as if Yang Yuhuan's words were air. Indeed, Xiao Su had only been paying attention to Yang Xiaohuan. That person who was coveting his little fellow. Who the hell was Yang Yuhuan? Not interested. That Yang Xiaohuan had peeked at the little fellow again. Chapter 580. Being ignored, Yang Yuhuan clenched the chopsticks in her hand and her face turned pale. Ever since she was a child, she had never been treated like a nobody. That was because she had a father who was the magistrate of a prefecture. Who didn't put her on a pedestal? Everyone clustered around her. But at this moment, she was facing this young Master Xiao. Chu Qingyan looked at her pale fingertips and felt her heart ache. She wondered if she had broken the chopsticks just like that. My young master has caught a cold recently and is not suitable for the wind. Chu Qingyan casually made up an excuse. Big Ice Cube could ignore others, regardless of the atmosphere, but she felt that a relaxed eating environment was still very important, so she casually solved Yang Yuhuan's embarrassment. I see. Yang Yuhuan used her excuse to walk down. Originally, at this time, people who were tactful should just shut up and eat, and let all of this drift away with the wind. But this Yang Yuhuan thought too highly of herself. She turned to Xiao Su and said, then young Master Xiao should take good care of himself. It's easy to catch a cold when the season changes. Listening to Yang Yuhuan acting as if she was familiar with them, Chu Qingyan felt that her courage was commendable. Then the table was silent, and no one spoke. Chu Qingyan felt that it was enough. This person was not tactful, so why should she give her a way out? So she lowered her head and continued to eat her food. Inadvertently seeing Yang Xiaohuan eating the vegetables in front of her, not daring to eat meat, Chu Qingyan felt a little pity. With such a domineering sister, life was really painful. So Chu Qingyan pushed the sweet and sour pork ribs in front of her and said with a smile, "Second young Miss Yang, if you don't mind, how about you try the pork ribs?" Chu Qingyan's big ice cube did not like to eat sweets. The reason why there was such a sweet smell on the table was because she liked it. However, he never touched it, so Chu Qingyan gave the dish to Yang Xiaohuan. Hearing this, Yang Xiaohuan raised her head in a daze and looked at the silver-masked young man in front of her with a faint smile, like a summer lotus after the rain, making people unable to help but want to approach. "Thank you." She quickly lowered her head and said softly. Chu Qingyan felt that this little girl was quite cute, like a mimosa, immediately putting away the leaves when touched. But at this time, the person beside her suddenly put down the chopsticks heavily. "I'm full." Chu Qingyan jumped in fright. If she was full, so be it. Was there a need to say it so loudly? Then when she wanted to continue to eat, she found that Big Ice Cube's cold gaze was fixed on her hand. Although he was wearing a gauze hat and she could not see his expression, she could feel his intense gaze and she could not help but swallow her saliva. "Goodbye, my lunch." Thus, she stood up and said to the other two, "This one is already full. Please enjoy your meal." The moment he finished speaking, Big Ice Cube immediately stood up and walked upstairs. Chu Qingyan accepted her fate and continued to follow. When Chu Qingyan left the table, she did not notice that the person who had been eating with his head lowered had tears dripping onto the pork ribs between his chopsticks. She found out that she only ate vegetables and did not dare to eat meat. Taking care of her self-esteem, he pushed the food in front of her and said it was to invite her to taste the taste of the ribs. This kind of considerate and gentle young man made her eyes warm, and she could not help but cry. "Mother, daughter thought that after you left, there would be no one in this world who would worry about daughter. But, daughter met with it." The older sister beside her kept complaining that young Master Chu had eyes but could not see the golden jade. Yang Xiaohuan did not hear anything and ate the ribs in the bowl with tears in her eyes. Sweet and sour ribs, it was really sweet, not sour at all. Chu Qingyan did not know that her unintentional action had affected a girl's life. No one would have thought that this timid little girl would one day become famous, and become the object of worship for all the girls in the boudoir. But this little girl, from the beginning to the end, only served one person. Chu Qingyan followed Big Ice Cube into the room, with a puzzled face. What happened to Big Ice Cube? He was clearly eating well. She saw Xiao Su take off the veil on his head, revealing his purple eyebrows. He casually hung the veil and called Huoling in. "Master, what orders do you have?" Huoling bowed and asked. "Let the waiter prepare another table of dishes." Xiao Su sat down on a chair and lightly ordered. Not only was Huoling surprised, Chu Qingyan was also surprised. Huoling complied and immediately went out. Soon, the waiter brought the dishes. When he saw the two again, he smiled until his molars couldn't be seen. He couldn't tell that these two were not fat, but their appetite was quite big, and the dishes they ordered were not cheap. If they stayed for a few more days, they would be able to earn more money. Chu Qingyan picked up the chopsticks and asked puzzledly, "Big Ice Cube, aren't you full? Why are you preparing food again? I'm hungry now." Xiao Su's face slightly stiffened, but he quickly hid it. Just now, he was full of anger because of her. Oh. Chu Qingyan felt that Big Ice Cube's digestive system was quite good. But she didn't know why Big Ice Cube was dissatisfied with her. The table was filled with carrots. Stir-fried shredded carrots and potatoes, corn and carrot pancakes, steamed egg custard with minced carrots, stewed pork ribs with carrots, diced carrots, carrots and ribs with barley rice soup. Chu Qingyan felt as though all she could see were red carrots spinning in circles. "Eat more carrots, they're good for your eyes." Xiao Su placed a carrot in her bowl. Only like this could she open her eyes and not let everyone be good to her. As for Xiao Su's hidden meaning, Chu Qingyan could not hear it because she was currently fighting with the carrots. After the meal, Chu Qingyan felt like she had to go and digest her food. Big Ice Cube was desperately trying to put food in her bowl, so she felt like her stomach was full of carrots. She clearly wasn't a rabbit, so why did she have to rely on carrots with her rice? But when she went out, Chu Qingyan bumped into Yang Yuhuan. Why was this person like a ghost lingering around? "Little brother Chu, is young Master Xiao in the room?" Yang Yuhuan saw her and immediately went to greet her. Chu Qingyan glanced at the food box in her hand. The workmanship was exquisite and she could tell that it was good stuff. "My young master is here." "What's the matter, Miss Yang?" Chu Qingyan raised her eyebrows and asked. "I made some sour plum soup for digestion. I want to let young Master Xiao taste it," Yang Yuhuan said with a smile. Chu Qingyan rolled her eyes. This Yang Yuhuan couldn't have taken a fancy to Big Ice Cube, could she? So attentive. What exactly did she like about Big Ice Cube? Family background? No, they were very low-key this time. Their clothes and carriages were all very ordinary. Appearance? No, Big Ice Cube was wearing a curtain hat all the way. Yang Yuhuan should not have seen Big Ice Cube's face. Inside? No, Big Ice Cube was cold and arrogant the whole time. He ignored everyone. This Yang Yuhuan must be blind to see inside. Then what was it? Yang Yuhuan's scalp tightened at this time. This little brother Chu didn't say anything and just looked at her. Chapter 581. Chu Qingyan thought for a long time, but still couldn't figure out what this Yang Yuhuan liked about her big ice block. But no matter what, she felt that this girl had no chance, so she tactfully declined. "Miss Yang, my young master doesn't like to drink sour plum soup, please leave." So young Master Xiao doesn't like to drink sour plum soup, then may I ask what flavor does young Master Xiao like? Although Yang Yuhuan was a little disappointed, she quickly pulled herself together and asked seriously. This person really didn't give up. Oh, I understand. You understand? She didn't say anything, but what did this Yang Yuhuan understand? Chu Qingyan was a little confused. She saw Yang Yuhuan take out a purse from her sleeve and hand it to Chu Qingyan. "This is a small token of my appreciation, please accept it." Chu Qingyan's mouth twitched, feeling that she could no longer use words to describe this person in front of her. It was obvious that she was trying to bribe her. Cough cough, I think it's better for you to ask him about this kind of thing. What do you mean? Yang Yuhuan felt that this person was really stubborn and her tone was a little annoyed. After saying that, she saw Chu Qingyan point behind her. Yang Yuhuan looked in the direction of her finger in confusion and saw a tall figure standing at the door. His clean and white skin was flawless. His sword-like eyebrows rested above his profound eyes, giving off a sharp aura. His dark pupils were dotted with ink, giving off a faint coolness. His nose was straight, and his lips were thin and slightly pink. If they were slightly longer, they would be too long; if they were less, they would be too short; if they were too pink, they would be too white, and if they were too red, they would be too red. He was wearing a simple robe, but he exuded an unattainable noble aura. Yang Yuhuan was simply stunned. She was immersed in this extraordinary appearance. Xiao Su didn't expect that the person chatting with the little fellow was this Miss Yang. His gaze went past Yang Yuhuan and landed on Chu Qingyan, saying lightly, "After eating, don't run around, rest well, we still have to hurry on the road tomorrow." Without waiting for Chu Qingyan to respond, he had already closed the door. Chu Qingyan glanced at the dazed Yang Yuhuan and shook her head. "Why did you come out now, big ice cube?" "So what if she came out? Why didn't she wear a veil? Don't you know that you have an attractive face? It's not your fault that you're good-looking, but it's your sin to harm others." Chu Qingyan waved his hand in front of Yang Yuhuan's face. Seeing that she was still in a daze, he withdrew his hand and strode away. "Forget it, I'll just leave her alone." The design of this inn was quite user-friendly. There was a small courtyard in the backyard for guests to take a stroll and admire the moon. Although it was still noon and there was no moon to admire, Chu Qingyan wanted to go to the stable to see Redfeather, Sweet Potato's favorite mount. Chu Qingyan stayed in the stable with Hong Yu for a while before she felt someone appear beside her. She turned her head and was surprised to see that it was Yang Xiaohuan. "Second young Miss Yang." Chu Qingyan cupped her hands politely. "Chu, big brother Chu." Yang Xiaohuan heard her voice and became nervous, stuttering her words. Chu Qingyan was amused by her little chick pecking at rice and couldn't help but chuckle. "Second young Miss Yang, don't be nervous. I'm not a tiger and won't eat people." Chu Qingyan's teasing eased the atmosphere. Yang Xiaohuan quickly nodded, but she was still too nervous to speak. Chu Qingyan was about to leave and return to her room, but when she saw the young lady's flustered look, she guessed that the young lady must have been oppressed by Yang Yuhuan too much. That was why she was so nervous around strangers. She couldn't help but stay for a while. Seeing the little girl tightly clutching a plate of pastries, she tried to find a topic to ease the awkwardness. "Are these pastries for your sister?" Yang Xiaohuan was scolding herself for being stupid in her heart for not knowing how to talk to Big Brother Chu. When she heard her, she immediately shook her head. "No, these are for you. Xiaohuan saw that you didn't eat much at the dinner table, so I specially prepared them for you." After saying that, she mustered up her courage and stuffed the plate into Chu Qingyan's arms, then lowered her head and ran away. Chu Qingyan blinked as she looked at the plate in her hands. She stared at the small pastries in front of her. This little girl was quite cute. She picked up the pastry and took a bite. It was not bad, so she carried the pastry to Xiao Su's room. If there was something good, of course she had to share it with the big ice cube. Yang Xiaohuan hid behind the pillar and saw Big Brother Chu eat the pastries. The anxiety on her face was immediately replaced by happiness. It was great that Big Brother Chu liked it. It seemed that she had eaten one more peach blossom pastry. She could make more next time. Yang Xiaohuan, who was immersed in her own thoughts, turned to go back, but met her sister's strange eyes. "Big sister," Yang Xiaohuan lowered her head in fear. Yang Yuhuan looked in the direction Chu Qingyan left, then said in a domineering tone, "What were you doing just now?" Big Brother Chu saved Xiaohuan, so Xiaohuan just made some pastries for him to express her gratitude. Yang Xiaohuan quickly replied. It was the first time she saw her stepsister so concerned about a man. Yang Yuhuan had a plan in her heart, so she asked patiently. "Xiaohuan, don't be afraid. Do you like Chu Qingyan?" Yang Xiaohuan looked at her smiling sister in front of her blankly, then shook her head. "It doesn't matter. Even if you don't admit it, big sister understands." Yang Yuhuan curved her lips into a smile, a light flashing in her eyes. "Xiaohuan, as long as you help big sister do one thing, maybe big sister will ask mother to help you propose marriage. Our family's Xiaohuan is so cute and beautiful, no man can refuse." Even if her stepsister didn't have such thoughts, although this Chu Qingyan was wearing a mask, his tall figure, strong martial arts, gentle and handsome body, which girl wouldn't be moved? Yang Yuhuan now needed to deceive her stepsister because she had a bold plan that needed her stepsister's cooperation, and only her stepsister could do it. Because she could see that Chu Yan was polite and distant to everyone, but only to her, this concubine-born sister, he treated her differently. So she must persuade her stepsister. Just now when she left young Master Chu's door, she already had a thought in her heart. This man with outstanding appearance and temperament was the one she would marry in her life. So she must take him down. Otherwise, this shop won't come again. When Yang Xiaohuan heard this marriage proposal, her face turned red. Although she hadn't reached marriageable age, she was already enlightened. Her fingers twisted her handkerchief, and she lowered her head without saying a word. She also didn't know how she felt about Chu Qingyan, but she felt that Chu Qingyan was a good person. Apart from her mother, he was the best person to her. Yang Yuhuan nodded her head in satisfaction. Her stepsister was good at everything, but her mind wasn't flexible enough. In her eyes, she was just a little stupid, but very easy to coax. So Yang Yuhuan dragged her to the side and began to explain. Chapter 582. Chu Qingyan didn't know what had happened in the small courtyard and hummed as she walked into Xiao Su's room. Xiao Su looked up and saw the little fellow walking in a good mood. His face couldn't help but soften. He put down the letter in his hand and asked with interest, "Did something good happen?" Chu Qingyan smiled and pushed the plate in her hand in front of him. "Here, try it. Do you like it?" Xiao Su looked at the delicious pastries on the plate and casually picked one. "The taste is okay. Can you make it?" Chu Qingyan giggled. "I didn't make it. The second miss of the Yang family gave it to me. It should be a thank you gift for saving my life twice." Chu Qingyan talked to herself and didn't notice that a certain someone's face was slowly darkening. "It's disgusting." Xiao Su put down the other half of the pastry with a tone of disdain. "Ah, it's not. I think it's moderately soft and the texture is good. It's not inferior to Huang Yi's." Chu Qingyan doubtfully picked up another pastry and was about to put it in her mouth to taste, but the person in front of her took it and threw it back to the plate. "You just ate, so don't eat so many sweets. Be careful not to have a toothache. Go back and rest." Xiao Su drove her out of the room like he was swatting a fly. When Chu Qingyan came back to her senses, she was already out of the room. She touched her chin and was a little suspicious. What was wrong with the big ice cube recently? His behavior was so strange. If only Yan Luo was here, she could discuss it with her. Sigh, Chu Qingyan rested her hands on the back of her head and sighed as she left. As soon as Chu Qingyan left, Huo Ling was called into the room. "Keep an eye on the second miss of the Yang family. Don't let her get close to Qingyan," Xiao Su said without changing his expression. "Master, is the second miss of the Yang family very suspicious?" Huo Ling asked while touching his head. "Yes, it's very suspicious," Xiao Su said seriously. She had inexplicably become entangled with the little fellow and had been fawning over him. Something was wrong. This subordinate obeys. Actually, Huo Ling was very suspicious of his master's order. Why was it that compared to the obedient second young Miss Yang, he felt that the eldest young Miss Yang who kept inquiring about his master was more suspicious? However, with the young Princess Consort here, that Miss Yang was just a piece of trash. He was still very confident in the young Princess Consort. "This pastry is not bad. Bring it back for your brothers to eat." Thus, Huo Ling happily carried the plate out the door. Soon, night fell. After dinner, they went back to their own rooms and slept in their own beds. Chu Qingyan had just come out of Big Ice's room and couldn't stop yawning. Tonight, she didn't know why Big Ice Cube suddenly called her over. It wasn't anything important. He just made her stare blankly at the candlelight for 4 hours. He only let her go back to her room when she was really sleepy. Big Brother Chu. A voice sounded from behind him. AI, Xiao Su had been on guard all day and night, but that second young Miss Yang still appeared beside Chu Qingyan. It's so late. Second young miss, you're still not sleeping. Chu Qingyan turned around and saw that it was Yang Xiaohuan. She was slightly surprised, but she still politely greeted her. Yang Xiaohuan appearing here was actually because of Yang Yuhuan's instructions. She didn't know what her older sister wanted to do. She just wanted her to stop Chu Qingyan from appearing in young Master Zhao's room. However, when she saw the person in front of her, Yang Xiaohuan forgot about her mission and started to get nervous again. Chu Qingyan looked at Yang Xiaohuan, who had her head down and didn't speak. She wondered if this child had social phobia. She was afraid of strangers and couldn't speak. The more she looked, the more suspicious she became. Normally, you couldn't deny or attack this kind of person. You had to guide them patiently and enlighten them. In the end, you had to lead them to speak. Thus, Chu Qingyan asked, second young miss, did you encounter some trouble? Yang Xiaohuan nodded. Then, she gathered her courage and looked at Chu Qingyan. I like to read, but I've finished reading. Can I ask Big Brother Chu to help me buy a few books if it's convenient for you? I'll give you money. As she said that, she immediately reached into her sleeve to take out her money pouch. Chu Qingyan raised her hand to stop her. I didn't expect second young Miss Yang to be a girl who likes to read. What kind of books do you like to read? Books similar to Bead Calculation and Tea Sutra. Yang Xiaohuan said embarrassedly. Do all girls like to read these kinds of books now? Chu Qingyan felt that she was outdated. She thought that it was already incredible for her to read books on the art of war. She didn't expect that there would be girls from noble families who liked to study these kinds of books. No, it's what I like. It's just that when I have nothing to do, I will read these books to pass the time. Yang Xiaohuan waved her hand and explained. Chu Qingyan smiled. It's normal for someone to like. If it's these kinds of books, I have a few here. Second young miss, you can take a look and see if you like them. As she said that, Chu Qingyan led her to her room. Not long after Chu Qingyan and Yang Xiaohuan left, a figure appeared in front of Xiao Su's door. It was Yang Yuhuan. In the chilly spring night, she wore a light pink dress with translucent white sleeves. One could vaguely see the white skin on her arms. Her face was covered with meticulous makeup. At this moment, she didn't feel cold at all. Instead, she was excited, nervous, and excited. She raised her hand and knocked on the door. Xiao Su was taking off his coat when he heard the knock. Only the little fellow would come to look for him at this time. He didn't think much and said, "Come in." Yang Yuhuan didn't expect things to go so smoothly. She pushed open the door and walked in, not forgetting to close the door. You came back, and Xiao Su just turned around and saw the person standing under the candlelight. Yang family's young miss. He had already forgotten her name. Get out. Xiao Su ordered coldly. At this time, Yang Yuhuan's eyes were wide open. She saw that he had taken off his black outer robe and was wearing a white robe, which made him look handsome and gentle. Her entire mind was hung on him. Young Master Xiao, this little girl came to visit you in the middle of the night. I have something to ask for your help. She took 2 steps forward. Her eyes were watery, and she looked pitiful. She appeared in his room in the middle of the night just to ask for his help. Xiao Su looked at her with a gloomy face. My father is the magistrate of Fu City. Recently, he suddenly sent a letter asking our family to go to Fu City. Yang Yuhuan took a few more steps forward. Xiao Su originally wanted to order people to drag her out, but when he heard her mention Fu City, he couldn't help but look at her with a frown. Father City, the place they would pass by tomorrow, was also one of the wealthiest cities under his jurisdiction. Yang Yuhuan saw that he was really listening and was overjoyed. She had sprinkled some fragrance on her body. If a man breathed in a little, it would quickly destroy his rationality. At that time, even if he was a gentleman, he would turn into a wolf. Chapter 583. Young Master Xiao, you don't know this. My father didn't send me to my father's city to enjoy the happiness of family reunion. Instead, he sent me to His Highness Prince Ying, who had been banished. Yang Yuhuan held a handkerchief and covered her eyes. She cried miserably. Oh. Give me to him. How come I don't know what these officials are thinking? Seeing his response, Yang Yuhuan was secretly delighted, and immediately increased the intensity of her pitifulness. Yes, I heard that His Royal Highness' face was destroyed by a fire many years ago. If he comes out in the middle of the night, he will scare people to death. Also, his temper is strange, and he kills people at the drop of a hat. He is cold and heartless, and now that he has lost his power, he has been exiled to this desolate land by His Majesty. If my father really gives me to him, then my life will be ruined. Xiao Su raised his brows. So this is what the rumors said about him. He was really ignorant. So. He was curious about what this woman who slandered him in front of him wanted to do. So young Master Chu, can you save me? How can I save you? Yang Yuhuan thought that he had already inhaled the powder on her body and was gradually bewitched by her. Her heart was filled with joy, and she shyly raised her head to look at the tall and noble man in front of her with infatuation. She slowly opened her lips and said, "These few days, I have seen young Master's talent and knowledge. This little girl has long admired young Master. If young Master can fulfill this little girl's wish tonight, then my father will not give this little girl to His Royal Highness." As she spoke, she stretched out her hands to Xiao Su. The white embroidered muslin slowly slid down her arms with her movements, revealing a section of snow-white skin. At this moment, Chu Qingyan had already brought Yang Xiaohuan to the door of her room. She suddenly remembered that men and women should not touch each other, so she had Yang Xiaohuan wait outside the door. After a while, she walked out with 3 books in her hands. This is the Botanical Dictionary, Quanfang Bei Zhu. This is the Agricultural Encyclopedia, Qi Min Yao Shu. The other one is Tian Gong Kai Wu. It talks about agricultural production techniques. I see that you are quite interested in life-related things, so I recommend these books. I don't know if you like them. Chu Qingyan placed the books in front of her. She was still a little worried at first, but when she saw the light in Gu Ruoyun's eyes, she knew that the books she had recommended to Gu Ruoyun were not wrong. She smiled. Yes, I like it very much. She took the books and flipped through them one by one. She was like a person who had walked in the desert for a long time and suddenly saw an oasis. She was pleasantly surprised and couldn't bear to put it down. She had heard of these 3 books, but there were only a few copies on the market. It could be said that they were the only copies. She had never thought that she would be lucky enough to read them. That's good. Chu Qingyan retracted her hands and placed them behind her back. Looking at how happy she was, it was as if she was looking at her own little cousin. Every time Chu Qingyan returned from school and brought her good food, she would always be this happy, even though her little cousin was only 8 years old. Perhaps Chu Qingyan still could not predict that her unintentional actions would become a gold-ranked housekeeper in the future. Thank you, big brother Chu. Yang Xiaohuan tightly hugged the books and then said, "I'll immediately return them to you after I finish reading them." But as soon as she said this, she remembered that the 2 of them would be separated tomorrow. It was impossible for her to finish reading these 3 books in a short period of time. Her face instantly turned white and her heart was filled with reluctance to part with the person in front of her. "It's fine, you can slowly read them. If it's fated, we'll meet again." They had to pass through their father's city on their way back from the Fuli mountain range. "All right." Yang Xiaohuan forcefully nodded. Chu Qingyan wanted to have her go back and rest early, but Huoling suddenly ran over at this time. "Little young master, someone broke into master's room." As soon as his voice fell, Yang Xiaohuan was so scared that she took 2 steps back and leaned against the wall. She looked at Chu Qingyan with her eyes wide open, not knowing what to do. Could it be Big Sister? Chu Qingyan did not have time to look at Yang Xiaohuan's strange expression as she quickly walked towards Big Ice Cube's room. It couldn't be an assassin, right? Chu Qingyan did not dare delay and quickly arrived at Xiao Su's room. Just as she was about to open the door, she suddenly felt a strong force and immediately stepped to the side. Following that, a figure was thrown out and the door was opened. Chu Qingyan looked over and saw a girl lying on the ground. She was wearing a thin spring robe and was unconsciously crying out in pain. Big Sister, Yang Xiaohuan, who was following behind her, immediately knelt down to lift the person on the ground and found that she had already fainted. Yang Xiaohuan raised her head to look at the youth standing at the door and her eyes were filled with panic. She won't die. Bring her back, don't embarrass yourself here. Chu Qingyan looked at the two people, one lying down and one kneeling. Although the silver mask covered half of her face, the coldness in her eyes could not be concealed. Yang Xiaohuan saw that she had suddenly changed from a kind big brother next door to a cold youth and her heart was filled with sorrow. She should not have listened to Big Sister's words and done something wrong. Big Brother Chu was angry with her. When she raised her head again, she had already entered the room and the door was closed. Yang Xiaohuan could only help the person on the ground up and walk back step by step. If she knew that Big Sister would do such a thing, even if she was beaten to death, she would not have agreed. But what the world lacked the most was medicine for regret. Chu Qingyan did not care about the commotion outside the door and walked straight to the person standing in the room. Seeing that he was safe and sound and his clothes were neatly on his body, she instantly heaved a sigh of relief. From the moment she saw Yang Yuhuan, a string in her heart had been stretched taut. Only when she saw that Yang Yuhuan was standing in front of her did she dare to loosen her tightly clenched fingers. But after loosening her grip, she was at a loss. Why was she so nervous? Big Ice Cube, are you all right? Although he looked fine, Chu Qingyan could not help but ask. N. Xiao Su nodded. When he saw her nervous look, he could not help but smile. But before the curve of his smile could even spread, he suddenly felt a flash in front of his eyes and then his whole body started to feel hot. He was not wearing much and the weather was cool. Why did he feel this way? Chu Qingyan did not notice anything strange about him and slowly walked in front of him. Seeing that he was only wearing his underwear, she thought that when Yang Yuhuan barged in, Big Ice Cube should have been preparing to rest. She had to admit that Yang Yuhuan's timing was quite clever. She looked around and took his coat and was about to hand it to him. The night is still a little cold, suddenly, her wrist was grasped by him. Her palm was scalding hot, but her fingertips were slightly cold. One was cold and the other was hot. It was as if two electric currents had entered her body from her wrist. She seemed to have been pulled by something and subconsciously raised her head. Before she could see clearly, she saw a black shadow slowly coming down. Chapter 584. A mischievous halo danced in his black hair. Then, it leaped into her eyes and began to emit a halo. Her eyes seemed to be covered by a ray of light. In the halo, there seemed to be a pair of black eyes, as if they were carrying some emotion she couldn't understand. Then, like a drop of spring water, it fell. It was icy cold on her lips. Ugh! Before she could finish her sentence, the second half of her sentence was swallowed up by Lin Yiqian. That cool breath followed her slightly parted lips and entered her mouth. Chu Qingyan felt that her brain suddenly crashed. She didn't know anything. In front of her eyes, except for the pool of ink spreading out from the pair of thick ink-like eyes, she couldn't see anything else. Her senses became very sharp. For example, his slightly calloused fingers gently rubbed the artery on her wrist, causing her body to heat up all of a sudden. For example, another strong arm slowly pressed her into his chest, making her unable to escape bit by bit. For example, he was like a beginner who didn't seem to know anything, but very patiently pulled her to practice over and over again, pestering her and not letting her retreat. Yang Yuhuan probably didn't know that it wasn't that her incense didn't work on Xiao Su, but that the person who could make him work was not her. The incense she got was called lover's incense, a rare aphrodisiac. This lover's incense could indeed make ordinary men lose control after smelling the fragrance. But Xiao Su was not an ordinary person. He had the medicinal fragrance placed on his body by ethereal, which could imperceptibly suppress the medicinal properties of lover's incense. Lover's incense could only be dissolved invisibly after 3 days. But this lover's incense had another characteristic that other medicinal fragrances couldn't compare to. That was, if the person who smelled the incense was with the person he cared about in his heart when he was relaxed, the medicinal properties would be unknowingly stimulated. Lover's incense was originally used between lovers. Yang Yuhuan didn't completely understand the medicinal properties, so she was thrown out of the room by Xiao Su. It could be said that she reaped what she had sown. Because when he was talking to Yang Yuhuan, Xiao Su inhaled a small amount of medicinal fragrance. The moment he saw Chu Qingyan, the medicinal fragrance on his body was stimulated. Then, his consciousness was swallowed up. His body followed his heart and instinctively wanted to rub the person in his heart into his body, blood, and life. He didn't want to let go of anything. Chu Qingyan took the opportunity to take a break and realized that he was already sitting on a chair, and she coughed and sat on his lap. Yes, it was a tight stitch. Yes, his clothes were still intact. Well, it was just that his emotions were in a mess. Big ice cube, we can't do this. She panted slightly and finally managed to finish her sentence with great difficulty. She had almost been swallowed by him just now. At this moment, his vision was still blurry. He was still unable to see the person in front of him clearly. Why? His voice was hoarse, as if he was suppressing something. It was like the rustling of leaves in the night breeze, low and sexy. Why? Chu Qingyan's mind was also a mess. Why? Why not? She had no idea either. There is no why. She, who couldn't find the answer, felt his breath blowing by her ear. It was a little hot and itchy. Then, she heard his answer. Follow your heart. There was no why. Ah, she let out a small cry of surprise. Because he seemed to have pinched her waist gently. Cherry fan suku, willow slender waist. The gorgeous ending of his words overflowed from his lips. Chu Qingyan blinked her watery eyes. It seemed that she had been flirted with. She realized later that she had really been flirted with. Her face flushed even redder. Big Ice Cube usually looked quite serious. She had never seen him like this before. However, such a frivolous Big Ice Cube was still a little irresistible. Her forehead and his were touching. Their breaths were intertwined, and they couldn't tell each other apart. The temperature rose little by little. It's about time. What? She didn't react when she heard him whisper suddenly. The break was over. The battle resumed. Continue. She felt the palm on her back tighten slightly, and she couldn't help but move forward. Then, Big Ice Cube's aura poured down on her. This time, he wasn't as patient as before. For a self-taught genius like him, once was enough. The next step was to put it into practice. The air in her body was sucked out bit by bit. But the person in front of her didn't want to let her go at all. Although Yang Yuhuan had left, the lover's fragrance still lingered in the air. Originally, the scent of the lover's fragrance was already very faint, but it couldn't withstand the ups and downs of her emotions. Plus, it was given to her by Xiao Su. So, she went from being clear-headed at the beginning to being confused by the lover's fragrance. Then, she was entangled by him until she didn't know what to do. His attacks were a little fierce, and she couldn't bear it. Chu Qingyan's hand on his shoulder couldn't exert any strength. However, he was like a good student, tirelessly and persistently exploring and groping. Every time she was close to the boundary, he would stop at the right time and considerately stroke her back to help her breathe. Every time this happened, she would be like a weak and boneless vine, tightly clinging to him, afraid that she would slip to the ground. But his iron wall-like arms kept her in his embrace, as if he was her strongest harbor, and wouldn't let her get hurt. The chance to breathe was just to let her breathe a little more and recover a little of her strength. Again. He lowered his head. It was very hot, very hot. She felt like she was in a big furnace. She didn't know if this temperature came from him or from herself. Again. Once wasn't enough. Again. The stars in the sky bloomed in front of her eyes. She opened her eyes slightly and looked straight into the sea of stars in his eyes. Those were her stars. They were within reach, but also out of reach. More like a sister. No, she didn't want to be his sister. It was never because she wanted to be his sister that she walked to his side step by step. Her efforts were never to be a sister. In the past, her heart that had never been dissected was suddenly torn apart bit by bit because of this proximity. Again. Continue. In the end, it was unclear who took the initiative. The two of them were like two wild beasts, releasing the most primitive impulse between a man and a woman. She couldn't let go. She was unwilling to let go. Whose chest was the warm palm burning? The light in the whole room seemed to be poured on the two overlapping figures. It also seemed that only the two of them existed. Coquettish eyes closed shyly, red lips smiling. Windy grape belt, sunny pomegranate skirt. Pity, love, entanglement, reluctance, moved, the room was full of confusion. Chapter 585. Their palms were pressed against each other, and then their fingers were interlocked one by one. Big Ice Cube, do you know what it means to have palms pressed against each other? What? It means that their hearts are connected. That's a good explanation. So. You don't have to hold me so tightly. If it's too tight, it'll hurt. Okay. The lovers took advantage of the break to whisper affectionately. She raised her head and looked at the person in front of her. After the starlight shone brightly, she could finally carve his face into her eyes bit by bit, embedding it in the softest part of her heart. His eyebrows were still the same. His eyebrows were still the same. His eyes were still the same. His face was still the same. Women couldn't bear to look away and men felt ashamed of their inferiority. But at this moment, he looked like a person she had never seen before. The indifferent coldness faded and was replaced by a seductive look. There was a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. The peach blossoms were shining brightly. And there was a wild animal look in his eyes. His gaze fell on her body, as if he was thinking about where to start. Chu Qingyan was slightly taken aback. Why was he so different tonight? What are you looking at? Don't you think it's good to eat? He hooked his finger and her long hair fell on his fingertips. Big Ice Cube, even the way he spoke was different. With a domineering aura that couldn't be avoided. Could it be that this was the real Big Ice Cube? Her head couldn't move anymore. She thought in a daze. Then, her gaze involuntarily followed his slender fingertips as they moved bit by bit. Looking at her hair wrapped around his fair fingers, round and round, it seemed like they would continue to be entangled like this. Continue? He asked for her opinion in a gentle tone, but his body was already leaning over. In his opinion, this was called being polite before resorting to force. Hey, that's not how you use idioms. It's okay, I'll only use it on you. Chu Qingyan blushed with shame. Again? She had no strength. But she was between his legs and couldn't move. Sit down, I'll do it. He chuckled. His voice was like a ring striking in the air, lingering in her ears. Her body went limp. Could he not smile in such an irresistible manner? Her body was falling, but her reason was constantly pulling her back, not wanting to fall into this pink vortex. No, I think, before she could finish, he thoughtfully interrupted her. If you don't want to do it here, then let's go somewhere else. Before she could react, the world turned upside down. His back was already touching the soft quilt. His hands were on either side of her, trapping her between his arms. His black hair fell down and brushed against her cheeks, making her feel a little itchy. She brushed it aside and looked up at him. This was the first time she had seen him from such an angle. The tenderness and love in his eyes made people want to get closer to him. I've never tried it before, but I heard that it will hurt. Bear with it. Chu Qingyan was still immersed in his gentleness, unable to extricate herself, when she suddenly heard his words. His voice was filled with expectation, immaturity, apprehension, tenderness, and indulgence. Then, it exploded in her ears. The person in his arms seemed to be a little dazed. Xiao Su curved his lips, a myriad of emotions gathered at the corners of his eyes, and then gradually deepened. He slowly leaned over, his fingers already on her waist. As long as he tugged gently, the pomegranate belt would be pulled apart by him. But at this moment, I know why. She opened her eyes. Why what? Being interrupted, he was not unhappy, but instead, he leaned closer to her and guided her patiently. Today is the last day. Her period had not ended yet. The moment she said this, it was as if a gust of wind had sneaked in from the window, blowing away the heat on her body, blowing away the fog in her mind, and also pulling back her lost rationality. Wait, why did everything turn out like this? Why was she lying on Big Ice's bed? Also, was this devilishly handsome man her family's big ice block? Xiao Su still did not understand what the last day meant. He was about to lower his head and continue. Chu Qingyan's sharp senses picked up the sound of footsteps approaching their room. But at this moment, one was on top and the other was below. Although their clothes were neat, but, Big Ice, there's someone, ignore them. No, Chu Qingyan immediately stood up, but that aura that followed her like a shadow made it impossible for her to hide. She suddenly understood that Yang Yuhuan must have done something to Big Ice Cube. Otherwise, how could Big Ice Cube, with its incomparably strong self-control, turn a blind eye to the commotion outside? Her heart ached. Perhaps Big Ice Cube didn't know who was lying in front of him. Master, little young master, are you inside? It was Huo Ling's voice with a questioning tone. Outside the door was Huo Ling, who could sense something was wrong and pushed the door open. In front of her was Big Ice, who had already lost his mind from the drug. Chu Qingyan made a prompt decision and wrapped her hands around his shoulders. Xiao Su was very satisfied with her initiative. When he was about to give her a reward, he suddenly felt a pain in his neck and then his entire body fell into darkness. Chu Qingyan was pressed down by him and almost couldn't breathe. But Huo Ling, who could not hear their response from outside, seemed a little anxious. She couldn't care about anything else. She flipped him over and quickly got up. Then, she took off his inner garment and casually threw it neatly on the pole. She shook the brocade quilt and quickly covered his body. When everything was done, the door was knocked open from the outside. Little young master. Huo Ling had just knocked open the door when a cold wind came in. He had an illusion that the pink that filled the room had suddenly disappeared. I'm fine. Chu Qingyan slightly turned her body, not meeting his gaze. After the shameful battle just now, who knew if he could face anyone at this moment? Although her clothes were neat, but, this subordinate did not mean to knock open the door. It's because master and the little young master did not make a sound, so I was a little anxious. Little young master, please forgive me. It was a good thing Huo Ling remembered his status and bowed. His gaze did not fall on her body, preventing the marks on Chu Qingyan's face from being discovered. Seeing that the little princess was standing perfectly fine, his heart let out a sigh of relief. He then began to explain his actions. It's fine. Because His Highness inhaled a bit of Yang Yuhuan's fragrance, he is currently asleep. I was worried that I would wake His Highness up, so I didn't dare respond when you called me. But looking at the effects of the drug, His Highness is sleeping quite deeply. We shouldn't stay here any longer. It wouldn't be good to disturb His Highness. Let's go out. After saying this, Chu Qingyan did not have the courage to look at the person sleeping on the bed. She also did not have the courage to stay any longer. She immediately lowered her head and walked past Huoling out the door. When Huoling looked up, the little princess figure had already disappeared out the door. Why did he feel that the little princess was like a cooked shrimp? Were his eyes playing tricks on him? Chapter 586. The moon was high up in the sky and the thin clouds were like a veil, shyly covering the crescent moon. Chu Qingyan ran all the way back to her room. The heat in her body had been blown away by the night wind and her mind was blank. She closed the door and leaned against it, gasping for air. Nothing happened. Everything was an illusion. She hypnotized herself. But the burning sensation on her lips, the breath between her lips and teeth that had not dissipated for a long time, his scorching temperature remained on her back and waist, lingering. And his pair of affectionate eyes were in her mind and she could not get rid of them. Was that person a big block of ice? She had never seen him like this. However, the scene just now had indeed happened to her. Thinking about how he was unguarded against her and fell for her trick, she suddenly sobered up. Maybe he was just drugged, that was why he was acting like this. If he was sober, he would definitely not do these things to her. Because he had always treated her as a little sister. Little sister. It seemed like she was not satisfied with this identity. Her head was so heavy. She held her forehead and slowly walked towards the bed. Could it be that she was drugged as well? Was that why she had such messy thoughts? She threw herself onto the bed and grabbed the blanket to cover her head. That box buried in her heart, she did not want to touch it. She was afraid of the result. Don't think about it, don't think about it. She wanted to be a tortoise today. A lover's fragrance was not intoxicating, but intoxicating. In a trance, a love, a dream. Xiao Su felt like he had a long dream. In this dream, it seemed like there was only him and another person. He was out of character, hugging the other person and taking as much as he wanted. And she was hugging his neck, cooperating with him and giving him what he wanted. In his dream, he wanted to see her face clearly, but there was always a cloud of fog separating them. No matter how close he got, her face was blurred in his eyes. This woman's aura was familiar to him. He did not hate it. Instead, he liked it. Hugging her, his heart was satisfied. He did not know why he had these strange emotions, but it made him unable to control himself. In the dream, he was out of control. His suppressed emotions were erupting. This version of himself was very unfamiliar. But he didn't regret what he had done. When the sunlight shone through the window and covered his face, he slowly opened his eyes. The dazzling light caused his mind to go blank. Soon, he regained his train of thought. He held his forehead and got up. He realized that he was dressed neatly, and the blanket was covering him. He looked around the room and didn't find anything wrong. Then, he couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Was last night just a dream? There was a light knock on the door and after he responded, Huoling pushed the door open and came in. Master, you're awake. Huoling's tone carried a trace of relief. Why did I sleep for so long? When he woke up, he realized that the time was not right. In the past, no matter how late he slept, he would always wake up at a specific time, but today, he woke up late. Huoling walked forward with a trace of contempt on his face. Isn't it that Yang family's eldest miss? I don't know what she did to you, but you slept for an entire night. Fortunately, little young master entered the room and found you, so he put you on the bed in time. Xiao Su slightly frowned when he heard this. What Huoling said was somewhat different from what he said before he lost consciousness last night. Huoling wanted to tell his master about the little princess consort's strange behavior last night, but when he saw that his master seemed to be deep in thought, he closed his mouth. When Chu Qingyan woke up, the sun was already high up in the sky. She jumped up and washed up. When she went out, she saw Jean Xian. Young master just said that if you woke up, you should go down to eat. Jean Xian respectfully said to her. Chu Qingyan stilled when she heard this. Her mind instantly recalled everything that happened last night. She felt her cheeks burning and she couldn't help but cough slightly. Bring the food up. I want to eat in the room. When she said this, Jean Xian's face showed surprise. In the past, his master and his highness would eat happily. Why was it suddenly so strange today? Yes. Jean Xian's surprise did not escape Chu Qingyan's eyes. She thought that even Jean Xian felt it was strange, so there was no need to mention other people. As for Big Ice Cube, she spoke again and called out to Jean Xian who was about to go downstairs, wait, I'll go down to eat. Jean Xian felt that his master who was struggling and hesitating was even more abnormal, but he still followed behind her and followed her downstairs. There was a kind of person who, no matter what kind of environment, would stand out the most and shine brightly. In Chu Qingyan's eyes, Xiao Su was such a person. She had just placed her hand on the escalator when she saw the person sitting upright downstairs. At this moment, he was holding a cup of tea and in front of him was a table full of food. The chopsticks and bowls were neatly arranged. It was obvious that he was waiting for her. His white and clean fingers were very long, so long that he could wrap her hair around his fingers more than 10 times. Cough cough, what was she thinking about? She took a deep breath and threw away the charming and gentle feelings in her mind. Then, she walked step by step in front of him. When the little fellow appeared in the corridor, he had already noticed. When she sat down in front of him, the strange feeling in his heart immediately appeared again. Chu Qingyan felt her scalp tighten. Since just now, Big Ice Cube had been staring at her, as if he wanted to see a flower bloom on her face. But fortunately, she was wearing a mask at this time, so she didn't lose her composure. But being stared at by him, Chu Qingyan recalled everything that happened last night and her face began to heat up again. Big Ice Cube, hurry up and eat, otherwise the food will get cold. She immediately picked up her chopsticks, took her bowl, and buried her head in eating. Xiao Su put down the cup and looked at her. Eat, 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 eat slowly, no one will steal it from you. Although he had a lot of things to ask her right now, but seeing her burying her head in eating, he couldn't help but remind her. Chu Qingyan nodded and then ate. Xiao Su saw that she had been eating white rice, so he picked up his chopsticks and put a few of her favorite dishes into her bowl. Then, Chu Qingyan looked up and saw that he had not put his chopsticks away, as well as his slender fingers. Her back felt a burning heat. Last night, he had used his palm to press against her and then slowly pressed her against him. Chu Qingyan felt like she had turned into a steam engine, as her whole body kept emitting heat. She immediately forced herself to look away and buried her head in the bowl again. She wanted to finish eating quickly and get far away from him. Xiao Su took back his hand. He didn't notice anything strange about her and casually said, "Last night." Chapter 587. Last night, before Xiao Su could finish his sentence, the person who was immersed in eating suddenly raised his head. His eyes were filled with panic. Nothing happened last night, nothing happened. She waved her hand and repeated it twice, but after she finished, she saw the surprise in the Big Ice Cube's eyes. She realized that her actions were too exaggerated and immediately shut up. She seemed to be trying to hide something. She instantly went back to eating with her head down. She was an ostrich today. Xiao Su stared at her intently, feeling that she was guilty. "I haven't said anything yet, why are you in such a hurry to answer?" he teased. She couldn't laugh at his teasing. "Then what do you want to ask?" Chu Qingyan smiled at him, pretending to be calm. "What did Miss Yang give me last night?" Xiao Su looked into her eyes and asked. Chu Qingyan choked on her words. Cough, 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 she coughed so hard that Xiao Su couldn't help patting her back. His tone was helpless, but there was a hint of affection. "Why are you in such a hurry to eat?" There's a lot of food, and no one is fighting with you. Chu Qingyan was crying in her heart. Big ice cube, can you move your hand away? I feel uncomfortable all over. And she didn't want to eat so quickly. She felt that the atmosphere between the two of them was very strange today. Or maybe she was thinking too much. After she drank a big mouthful of soup, she felt a little better. She could speak normally now. I reckon it's the usual tricks of the brothels. But you have the medicine pouch that Kong Ling made before, so those things won't work on you. But after all, some medicinal properties can't be dispelled, so you fell asleep all of a sudden last night. After I put you back to bed, I went back to my room. This was the story she had made up this morning. It was basically true, but she had concealed what had happened between her and Gun Yanji. She was betting that he wouldn't remember it when he woke up. Because last night, he seemed to be a different person, not like his usual calm self. Therefore, she thought that he must have been bewitched by the drug, which was why he did those things. If she didn't admit it, perhaps he would think it was just a dream. Her words were impeccable. He had indeed fallen asleep, but Xiao Su narrowed his eyes and looked at her. His intuition told him that things were not that simple. However, the little fellow seemed to be unwilling to talk more about it, so Xiao Su stopped the idea of asking. Two people, one wearing a mask and the other wearing a veiled hat, each with their own thoughts. Chu Qingyan had finally finished the longest meal she had ever had. She raised her hand to wipe her lips, but the moment she raised her hand, she instantly put it down. No, she had to find a place to calm down. Otherwise, when she faced the big ice cube, she would always recall yesterday's events. I'm full. She stood up and walked away quickly after saying this. Xiao Su held his chopsticks and looked at her fleeing figure. The strange feeling in his heart became even stronger. The spring sun was bright and the spring breeze was warm. Because the two masters had woken up late, the trip was pushed back and they planned to leave after lunch. So Turan, Hualing, and Jean Xian were lying on the eaves and basking in the sun. They were currently slacking off. Why did you appear so late last night? Turan asked with a puzzled expression. Knowing that Turan was asking about Yang Yuhuan breaking into his master's room, Hualing stopped chewing on the grass and smiled slyly. Wasn't I creating an opportunity for Master and the little princess? Didn't they say that if there was a love rival, it would be easier to promote the progress of the relationship? Turan looked at him expressionlessly, and the result? Hualing gave an embarrassed smile. Jean Xian continued, screwed up. When the words fell, Hualing's smile became even lower as if he wanted to reduce his presence. I also don't know why Master and the little princess looked a bit strange today. I really wanted to create an opportunity for them, but it didn't go as I wished. Last night, I was really late by the time it takes to make a cup of tea before knocking on the door. Hualing sighed. As time passed, as the young Wang Fei grew up, as the master's love for the young Wang Fei increased, they had long regarded the young Wang Fei as their proper mistress. It was a pity that for some reason, the relationship between the master and the young Wang Fei seemed to be stuck at the same level as it was 4 or 5 years ago. It was a pity for the subordinates who were watching the show. They wanted to see the other side of the master other than his calm and self-control, but unfortunately, they couldn't. Let nature take its course. Turan looked at the blue sky above his head and smiled. Master and the little princess only lacked a layer of paper between them. Since there was no one else, they could slowly get used to each other. There was no use for them as outsiders to be anxious. Xiao Su was standing in the room at this time. He was holding the mask that the little fellow had left in his room last night. Although she was wearing another mask today, he still recognized it as hers. What happened to the little fellow in his room last night? To think that he would even lose his mask. Was it really like she said, that she would only send him back to his bed when he was unconscious? Then those scenes in his memories, did they really only exist in his dreams? But that real feeling, he could not think of anyone else that could enter his room and break through his defenses. However, if that person was the little fellow, his breathing couldn't help stopping. towards the little fellow. Could it be? He closed his eyes and did not dare keep thinking about it. At this time, there was the sound of voices coming from outside. He slowly walked to the window and looked down. He saw her wearing a bright red robe, standing under the mulberry tree. Her face was covered with a silver mask and her black hair was tied up high, fluttering in the wind. Red robe, black hair, red lips, white teeth. This scene had a strong impact on his eyes. He seemed to rarely see her from such an angle. 4 or 5 years of training had washed away her childishness and immaturity. She was slender and elegant, no longer the same as 5 years ago. Holding a cloth towel to help him wipe his body, she said to herself, "It seems that I picked up a trouble." The little village girl was no longer the timid 9th Miss of the Chu family who stood in front of him when they first met again. He suddenly had a shocking discovery. His little fellow seemed to have grown up. She was no longer the little girl who would be tired of giggling in his arms. She would not hug his arm and act coquettishly to appease him. This discovery made him a little confused, at a loss, and even a little flustered. It was as if something had changed. But there was still a layer of fog in front of him. He could not see through it and could not understand it. At this time, a figure appeared in the corner of his eyes. It was the 2nd Miss of the Yang family, Yang Xiaohuan. At this time, she walked in front of the little fellow and said something. Xiao Su's face suddenly became a little unhappy. He did not analyze the tangled thoughts in his heart. Instead, he turned and went downstairs. Chapter 588. The sun shone brightly, and Chu Qingyan felt that the spring day gave people a warm feeling. She stood under the mulberry tree and looked at the green leaves. Her mood inexplicably improved, and the messy thoughts of Su Yi in her mind were immediately abandoned by her. The swallow grass was like jade, and the spring mulberry trees were green. What a scene of spring! This should be the season for silkworms to spin silk. Everything was waiting to bloom, and the year's plan was in spring. It was the season of new life again. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but bend down to stretch her muscles. Her back was sore from sleeping last night, and she didn't know if it was because Big Ice Cube's movements were too big, but she found that there were many bruises on her waist. Cough, cough, she said she wouldn't think about it, so calm down. She had just moved a few times when a person appeared in front of her. It was Yang Xiaohuan. Chu Qingyan looked at her indifferently. Last night's matter, if she connected the dots, she would know that it was related to her. There couldn't be such a coincidence. Perhaps it was the alienation in Chu Qingyan's eyes that made Yang Xiaohuan's heart tremble. She knew that Big Brother Chu blamed her. "I'm sorry, Big Brother Chu, last night I, 2nd young Miss Yang, don't do evil because it's small, and don't do good because it's small. Don't treat other people's kindness as a weapon that can hurt others. This way, you will disappoint those who treat you sincerely." Chu Qingyan really felt that this little girl was pretty good. She was able to evoke her memories of her cousin in the modern world, but it was a pity. "I was wrong, I was wrong." Yang Xiaohuan said 2 sentences, and her tears were about to fall. She really didn't know that her sister asked her to send people away to do such a thing. She had already blamed herself for last night, and only now did she have the courage to apologize to Big Brother Chu. Whether Big Brother Chu accepted it or not, she had to say it. "All right, let's go back. We still have to travel in the afternoon." Chu Qingyan saw the dark circles under her eyes and thought that she hadn't slept all night. She couldn't help but soften her heart. Perhaps this little girl was coerced and used by her sister, so she couldn't be too harsh on her. However, although she was soft-hearted, she would not pity anyone who schemed against her Big Ice Cube, regardless of whether they were the main culprits or accomplices. Yang Xiaohuan bit her lips. She knew that Big Brother Chu was already giving her face by doing this. Her heart was filled with sorrow. After nodding, she turned around and prepared to leave. However, she almost bumped into the person behind her. Yang Xiaohuan glanced at Xiao Su, who was wearing a veil hat. She took a step back and ran in another direction. You scared him away. Chu Qingyan raised her head when she heard the voice. When she saw that it was him, she was slightly stunned. She didn't know where to put her hands, and her posture became a little unnatural. Do I look like the kind of person who would scare people? Chu Qingyan replied as if nothing had happened. Xiao Su sized her up and said, You do. Chu Qingyan was speechless. Can you not be so sarcastic? Chu Qingyan had already forgotten her embarrassment and couldn't help but retaliate. Seeing that she was no longer avoiding him, Xiao Su's mood improved a lot. Okay. Xiao Su went with the flow. It was rare to see such an easy-to-talk to big ice cube. Chu Qingyan felt that she was stuck and didn't know what to say. At this moment, Xiao Su didn't seem to feel the subtle atmosphere between the two of them. With his hands behind his back, he asked the question that he had been wondering. Why are you treating that little girl differently? That little girl? Chu Qingyan didn't understand at first, but later she realized that Big Ice Cube was referring to Yang Xiaowan. She squinted at the sun in the sky. The sunlight wasn't too glaring, and it was very warm when it fell on her body. There's a sense of déjà vu about her, like an old friend. There was a sense of loss in her voice that he had never heard before. Xiao Su turned and looked at her. Her eyes were filled with nostalgia, emotion, and a touch of sadness. Then he heard her sigh softly to herself. Unfortunately, she's not. This little girl made his heart ache inexplicably. What kind of old friend? Maybe I can help you find her. Chu Qingyan recovered from his question and laughed self-deprecatingly. You can't find her, because she's not here. They weren't in ancient times, but in the modern world 1,000 years later. Xiao Su looked at her deeply, not knowing what to say to comfort her. Chu Qingyan wasn't used to the silence between the two of them. She rubbed her head. She seemed to be a little sentimental today. She pulled herself together and smiled sweetly at Xiao Su. It's okay. Nothing can be forced. Let nature take its course. If coming here was fate's arrangement, then so be it. Besides, her parents, Big Ice Cube, Sister Yen Luo, Ethereal, Huo Ling, and Jean Xian were here. Her fate wasn't that bad. Chu Qingyan adjusted her mood. Just as she raised her head, she saw a black shadow land on her face. She instinctively wanted to retreat, but he held her shoulders and ordered her in a magnetic voice, Don't move. She didn't dare to move at all. She felt the person in front of her getting closer to her. Then, he leaned forward and looked at her face intently. What's wrong? She asked softly. As soon as her voice fell, a warm fingertip fell on her lips. Her whole body stiffened. This time, without him saying anything, she didn't even dare to move. All her senses seemed to be focused on her lips where his fingertip had touched. It was burning hot. She felt as if she had returned to last night. The same two people, the same actions, and the same temperature. Give up. In a corner of the courtyard, Yang Yuhuan glared viciously at the two people under the mulberry tree. Then, she turned around and glared fiercely at Yang Xiaohuan. Sister, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Yang Xiaohuan was frightened by her sister's twisted expression and couldn't help but retreat. Yang Yuhuan sneered. Do you know why I didn't succeed last night? Yang Xiaohuan wanted to say that it was because she had shamelessly delivered herself to him. Young Master Xiao looked like a decent young master. How could he do such a thing? However, she was afraid that her sister would go crazy, so she chose to shake her head. Yang Yuhuan averted her gaze and looked at the two entangled figures under the mulberry tree. The anger from last night's humiliation surged up. Because he said that he doesn't like women getting close to him. I finally understand now. He likes men, not women. That's why I was thrown out by him. Yang Yuhuan trembled with anger when she thought about how he had mercilessly kicked her out last night. That's why he treated that Chu Yen differently. Look, their actions were so intimate. If they weren't lovers, how could they do such a thing? So, you should give up. Chu Yan is his boy toy. Yang Xiaohuan's face turned pale from Yang Yuhuan's words. Brother Chu was young Master Xiao's boy toy. How could that be? But how could young Master Xiao explain Brother Chu's actions? Yang Yuhuan's appearance wasn't bad and her figure was slim. Any man under the effects of that powder would be moved. Unless that person had a problem with his sexual orientation. So, Xiao Su was defined by her as a homosexual. Chapter 589. Big sister, don't speak nonsense. Yang Xiaohuan gathered her courage to refute her. She would not allow her to slander big brother Chu like this. Yang Yuhuan was currently in a humiliated and frustrated mood. Hearing her normally weak little sister dare to talk back to her today, even more vicious words came out of her mouth. You wouldn't really have set your heart on that Chu Yan, right? Don't you see him wearing a mask all day? Maybe he doesn't have the face to see people. Young Master Xiao has already said that he doesn't like girls and Chu Yan has always been by his side. Maybe he has already been touched by him. Every time Yang Yuhuan said a word, she successfully saw her face turn a bit paler. The pent-up anger in her heart was finally released. She couldn't help speaking to her heart's content, saying all kinds of vicious words. Suddenly, a sword was placed against her neck. Yang Yuhuan was scared by this cold light and her legs almost went soft. She slowly turned around and seeing that it was young Master Xiao's subordinate, her face immediately lost all blood. What else do you have to say? Just say it. Let's see if your tongue is faster or if this one's sword is faster. Huo Ling had a smile on his face, but the words he said were enough to make people feel fear. Yang Yuhuan looked down at the sword that was gradually approaching her throat. Her eyes suddenly rolled back and she fainted from fright. Really useless, fainting from fright every day. You still dare to speak nonsense with this little bit of courage. Huo Ling pulled back his sword and said in disdain. Then Huo Ling looked at Yang Xiaohuan, when your big sister wakes up, tell her to take a detour around my family's carriage. If she still has any ideas, this one doesn't mind turning her into a ghost. Huo Ling quickly left after saying this. He walked out of the corridor and quickly jumped onto the roof. Then he followed Turan and Jean Exine back up and asked in a low voice, how far has it developed? They were just watching the warm interaction between their master and the little princess, so how could they know there were so many gossips below? He couldn't help jumping down and teaching that Yang Yuhuan a lesson. He didn't know if he missed a good show or not. See for yourself. Turan ignored him and let him see the scene. What could be more direct than a live broadcast? In fact, Xiao Su did tell Yang Yuhuan that he didn't like women getting close to him, but why didn't he feel disgusted when Chu Qingyan got close to him? In Xiao Su's subconscious mind, there were 3 types of people in his life. One was men, one was women, and the last was his little one. His little fellow would not mix with the other 2 types of people. That was a special existence in his life. However, there was no need for him to tell anyone about this, nor was there any need for him to explain. Therefore, the conclusion that Yang Yuhuan came to through her own arguments was not tenable. This was because she had not considered that Xiao Su could not be judged by an ordinary person. If he could be seen through so easily, then the crafty war god would not have appeared on the battlefield back then. As for the 2 people under the mulberry tree, they still maintained the same posture. Xiao Su's finger caressed the corner of her lips, but he frowned. What's wrong? At first, she thought that the ice block wanted to do that to her again last night, but when she saw that there was no charm in his eyes through the veil, she thought that maybe she was overthinking. Sure enough, he just wanted to help her wipe the traces left on the corner of her mouth. Cough, cough. She probably ate too quickly just now, so she didn't notice the juice on her face, but the ice block found it. She was really embarrassed. However, his fingers seemed to have magic, making her body heat up involuntarily. I can't wipe it off. He was a little embarrassed. She was even more embarrassed. Just as she was about to take a step back and say that she would go back to her room to wash it off, he spoke again. Your face is very hot. Do you have a fever? Xiao Su felt that the skin under his fingertips was as hot as the xiaolongbao he was holding in the afternoon. It was soft and hot, as if something had drilled into his blood, and then it cycled back and forth until it drilled into his heart. It was a little numb and a little itchy. When Xiao Su's words fell, Chu Qingyan's face heated up. Her whole body was like a steam engine. She thought that if it was winter now, her body would probably be smoking. She lowered her head, her cheek avoiding his fingertips, and said in a low voice, "No, it's just a little hot." Xiao Su looked at her bashful look with her head lowered. He was a little dazed. His gaze fell on the corner of her lips, and his heart moved. A gust of wind blew, and he suddenly woke up. Then, I'll go back and wipe it off myself. Chu Qingyan saw that he did not speak for a long time, and planned to go back to her room to cool off. But just as she finished speaking, her wrist was grabbed by him, and then he walked forward. No need, just get a bucket of water and you can wash it directly. Chu Qingyan did not understand the meaning behind his words. She only felt that the place where she was hot, had turned from her cheek to her wrist. Where was the big ice cube taking her? Xiao Su did not expect that he would grab her wrist, but since he had already grabbed it, he did not care about this moment or two. He brought her to the side of the well, took the wooden bucket, and then placed it in the well, easily fetching a bucket of water. Chu Qingyan was attracted by his actions, her eyes wide open. In the past, when she went to her grandmother's house, she had never been able to successfully fetch a bucket of water. Handkerchief. He squatted down and extended his hand towards her. She rarely looked down at him so condescendingly, because he was always so much taller than her. At this moment, he faced the sunlight. The noon sun was already a little glaring, and he could not help but squint at her. Chu Qingyan suddenly remembered something that her best friend had once said to her. If in this life, someone is willing to lower his noble body in front of you, then marry him. Then marry him. Then marry him. Then marry him. This sentence kept repeating in her mind, but in the end, she could not resist the sentence, which was more like a little sister. She suddenly sobered up, and then immediately reached into her sleeve, took out the handkerchief, and prepared to bend down and dip it in water to wipe it. But the other big hand was faster than her. He took her handkerchief, dipped it in water, and then took it out to dry. He straightened his body, put the handkerchief close to her lips, and said while wiping, "You don't have a mirror, so how can you see? What if you can't wipe it clean?" He spoke in a serious tone, but his movements were extremely gentle. Chu Qingyan answered in a muffled voice, "Yeah." What should she do? It seemed like she was becoming more and more dependent on him. What exactly did she want from him? If she didn't want to be his little sister, then what other identity did she want other than being his little sister? This kind of problem was a headache. Warm, so warm. Soft, so gentle. The three peeping on the roof seemed to see that not long after, they would be able to take the little prince and little princess to play everywhere. Especially Hualing, whose mouth was about to become crooked from smiling. However, for things like love and affection, it was best for things to happen naturally. Chapter 590. It was a warm afternoon as the group set off again. Although Yang Yuhuan's matter happened late at night, there were still quite a few people who knew about it. The Yang family felt that they had lost all their face. Mrs. Yang kept a strict watch on Yang Yuhuan, restricting her movements. She even sent someone to bring silver notes to Xiao Su. But in Chu Qingyan's eyes, this Mrs. Yang wanted to use the money to shut their mouths. She did not want to affect her daughter's reputation because of this. There was no wall in this world that didn't have a crack. Even if they didn't say anything, it would be hard to stop the Yang family's mouths. Chu Qingyan felt that losing a woman's reputation was already a great punishment, so she did not pursue Yang Yuhuan anymore. But she heard Huo Ling and the others' discussions on the way. This Yang Yuhuan often used her little sister as a punching bag. Chu Qingyan gave a sigh. This little girl throwing herself into this family, it really was a sad thing. She didn't know what Big Ice Cube was thinking, but he sent someone to knock on Yang Yuhuan's head. After that, they never heard of Yang Yuhuan abusing her little sister again. Originally, Chu Qingyan did not want to stay in the same carriage as him, but Huo Ling told her in the afternoon that for some reason, the horse had started to vomit and have diarrhea. It needed to rest for 2 days, so she had no choice but to stay in the carriage. There was only one carriage and that was Big Ice Cube's carriage. She thought of the intimate contact between the two of them before and felt a bit scared. But it was not good to have Huo Ling and the others give up a horse, so she could only board Big Ice Cube's carriage in the end. Seeing the little princess get on the carriage, Huo Ling patted the horse that was jumping around on the side. His smile was a bit sly. "Horse, your master will be with you again in 2 days. I'll have to trouble you to pretend to be sick for now." Chu Qingyan nodded without much thought, but with a strong presence beside her, she did not dare sleep easily. "Sleep if you're tired." Xiao Su's words sounded. Chu Qingyan looked at him subconsciously and saw that his eyes were still on the book. She nodded and found a spot in the corner. Then, she fell asleep in a daze. Not long after, he heard her even breathing. Xiao Su closed the book that had been on the first page since they got on the car and casually placed it on the small table. Then, he reached out and picked up the person who was almost stuck to the wall of the car. Finally, he placed her on the soft couch beside him. Today, he felt that the little fellow was avoiding him. It was as if he was some kind of terrifying thing, not daring to look directly at him. Therefore, in order to prevent her from escaping further, he could only pretend to read. Now that she was asleep, he looked at her openly. In order to let her sleep comfortably, he took off the mask on her face. When she removed the mask, her beautiful face fell into his eyes. He looked at this otherworldly face and couldn't help but raise his hand to brush away the strands of hair on her cheek, tucking them behind her ear. His gaze moved from her eyebrows to her eyes, nose, and finally landed on her bright red lips. He felt his body heat up slightly. Finally, he closed his eyes and forced himself to look away. Then, he picked up the brocade quilt beside him and covered her with it. He picked up the book again, wanting to calm his messy heart. Chu Qingyan slept all the way until evening. At that time, they had just arrived at Fu City. The Yang family invited them to rest at the Yang Manor for a night to thank them for their help on the road. But anyone could see that the Yang family was just being polite. They wanted Chu Qingyan and the others to stay far away because they wanted to protect the reputation of the 2 young misses of the Yang family. Originally, it was only Yang Yuhuan's matter. Later, someone spread the news that Yang Xiaohuan had taken a fancy to Chu Qingyan. So, Mistress Yang felt that it was best for Chu Qingyan and the others to leave. Chu Qingyan and the others did not care. After a few words, they parted ways with the Yang family. But when they parted, Chu Qingyan seemed to see a tear-stained face when she brushed past the carriage of the Yang family's womenfolk. She said casually, "We will meet again if fate wills it." That tear-stained face immediately revealed a smile, but Chu Qingyan, who was walking further and further away, could not see it. "Master, after passing through Fu City, we will be able to reach the small village in front of the Fuli mountain range in 2 days and meet up with our people there." The Earth Spirit reported on the night when they were resting at the inn in Fu City. "And, how is the matter in Li City being handled?" Xiao Su thought of the matter and asked. "We caught 3 or 4 officials and seized 100,000 taels of silver. 50,000 taels of silver were stolen from the disaster relief officials 6 years ago. We broke the bandits' lair and rescued more than 10 innocent women who were trapped. Among them, the bandits led by Tiger Wang had more than 160 lives on their hands. There was no lack of old, weak, women and children. Their methods were extremely vile. When it came to this matter, Turin, who rarely got angry, could not help but be a little angry." Xiao Su's face was stern. Let Lu Rui punish them severely. Yes. Turin responded. Chu Qingyan was also full of indignation. These people were really too abominable. They did not even let the elderly and children go. It was simply an insult to the human race. Big Ice Cube, didn't they say that at birth, people are inherently good? Why have we seen so much cruelty and bloodshed in the past few years? She could understand if those officials were not benevolent and those who held power were scheming against each other. But why would even the common people kill each other? Because when there are too many temptations, people's hearts will be blinded. Xiao Su looked at her with a gaze that even he himself did not notice was gentle. Chu Qingyan sighed. A peaceful world did not exist in ancient times. The next day, the group once again set out on their journey towards the Fuli mountain range. At this time, on the other side of the Fuli mountain range, there was also a group of people secretly advancing towards the Fuli mountain range. Your Highness the Crown Prince, we will arrive in 2 days. A guard reported to his master who was resting with his eyes closed in front of him. So our journey is still quite fast. Pang Huang slowly opened his eyes. His deep blue eyes reflected a different kind of brilliance under the sunlight. He was wearing a blue brocade robe with a willow leaf golden cape, which set off his sturdy and robust body. At this time, he was casually leaning against a tree trunk with a tired and sharp expression. Our horses are all of the best quality. This trifling journey is nothing. The subordinate smiled somewhat complacently. And, don't be happy too early. Raise your vigilance and be on guard against this prince's good brothers. If our whereabouts are discovered, this journey will be troublesome. This prince does not want to die before achieving success. Pang Huang's lips curved into a smile, but it made people feel cold for no reason. Yes, this subordinate will remember. The subordinate immediately put away his smile and respectfully replied. You can leave. We will continue setting out in another hour. Pang Huang casually waved his hand. After the subordinate left, Pang Huang stood up straight and looked at the rising sun with his hands behind his back. An unfathomable light flashed through his eyes. Chapter 591. 2 days passed very quickly. But for Chu Qingyan, it was like a long period of suffering, because she had to stay in the same carriage as the ice cube. She used to think that it was a pleasure, but now she didn't know why, but her attitude changed. As long as she stayed with him, she would feel awkward. Finally, after that period of time, they arrived at a small village at the foot of the Fuli mountain range. This small village didn't exist 4 years ago, because no one would build a small village in such a remote place. But now, there was a dilapidated village in front of them. Greetings to Master, little princess. The burly man brought people to welcome the 2 masters. Chu Qingyan looked at him, and teased with a smile, Burly man, have you been neglecting your training recently, and have you grown bigger? Hearing this, the burly man's face trembled. He clearly felt that his master glanced at him after little princess said that, and he immediately said with pity, Little ancestor, what are you saying? Can't you see that this subordinate is much thinner than last year? Chu Qingyan pursed her lips and smiled, it seems that my eyes are playing tricks on me. The burly man blushed with shame, this little princess is becoming more and more mischievous, and is no longer the little girl that they can bully at will. Under the guidance of the burly man, Xiao Su and Chu Qingyan stayed in a house. It was a very simple house, but although it was small, it had all the essentials. This was also to deceive others. Master, when do you plan to go to the Fuli mountain range? The burly man ordered people to light the fire, prepare water and prepare food, and then turned to ask respectfully. If the weather is clear tomorrow, then tomorrow morning. Xiao Su took the tea from his subordinate and said indifferently. Chu Qingyan nodded, we have already spent a few days on the road, so it's better to go early and take a look, so that we can resolve our worries. Xiao Su didn't comment. Night fell, and a simple atmosphere enveloped the entire village. Chu Qingyan had been on the road for the past 2 days and hadn't had a good bath. In the village, most of the villagers were men, so they didn't think about her bathing. Therefore, Chu Qingyan pulled on her clothes and decided to find a place to take a bath. Today, when she entered the village, she deliberately observed the terrain and knew that there was a small stream here, clean and clear. Thus, she hugged a small bundle and planned to sneak out while it was already late at night. Her qinggong was taught by Turin, but it was spurred on by flowing light. After a few years of devilish training, she had already surpassed her master, so no one noticed her sneaking away. When they arrived at the small stream, Chu Qingyan found that the stream was wider than she had seen during the day. Moreover, there were lush trees all around, so she didn't have to worry about being disturbed. Therefore, she reached out to test the water. It was a little warm. Perhaps it had absorbed the sunlight during the day and hadn't cooled down in time. She was overjoyed. She took off her mask and untied the ribbon on her head. Her fine black hair cascaded down her shoulders. Under the reflection of the moonlight, it shone with a moving luster. Not far from the village, a group of people and horses were silently approaching. "Your Highness Crown Prince, there's a fire up ahead. There should be people living there. How about we go and scout?" The black-clothed subordinate looked at the light up ahead and couldn't help but report to the person beside him. Pang Huang also looked in the direction his subordinate was pointing. He narrowed his eyes and thought for a moment. Then, he said, "Since Xiao Su arranged for people to scout for ores, there should be people stationed in a village so close to Fuli mountain range. That's why we shouldn't alert the enemy. Qing Feng, take people to find a place to rest for the night. Tomorrow morning, we'll leave for Fuli mountain range. This consort will walk around." The black-clothed subordinate, Qing Feng, immediately complied. Then, he took people to find a safe place to rest. After his subordinate's footsteps gradually faded away, Pang Huang randomly found a direction and used his qinggong to travel. Ancient streams are clean and clear. It's nothing like the foul stench of modern times. People don't even dare to get close to it, Chu Qingyan muttered to herself. Then, she scooped up some water and began to wash her long hair. As she watched her long hair fall onto the water and drift with the current, she couldn't help but feel playful. She ran her fingers through the knotted ends of her hair and wrapped them around her fingertips. Fortunately, Big Ice Cube's fingers were longer than hers. She could only wrap her fingers around his hair a few times. Big Ice Cube had wrapped her fingers around his hair a dozen times, but there was still space left. Just as she was letting her imagination run wild, she suddenly saw a figure appear on the water in front of her. It seemed that the figure had been standing there for quite some time. She frowned. When did her vigilance become so weak? She subconsciously pressed the soft sword at her waist. With a weapon on her, she felt a little more at ease. Then, she pretended to look up casually. She turned around to pick up her clothes, but when she saw the person behind her, she jumped in fright. "WW, who are you?" She looked like a panicked little girl. Pang Huang was originally just walking around, but when he reached the small forest in front and heard the sound of water, he followed the sound and walked over. He didn't want to find a young girl sitting by the stream, washing her hair. He planned to leave quietly, but this figure was beautiful and gentle. Her long hair was shiny, and her posture was elegant and leisurely. It was a natural elegance that was rarely seen among the women he met. His heart was stirred, and he couldn't help but slowly walk over. When he approached, the girl didn't seem to notice. She was completely immersed in playing with her long hair. And he also took this opportunity to clearly see her beautiful and delicate face. She was full of jade, with delicate plum makeup. Her mouth was dotted with cherries, her eyebrows were relaxed like willow leaves, and her hair was lightly folded with dark clouds. Her snow-white skin was blown away by the wind. Her eyebrows were lightly brushed, and her face was slightly even. She was like the moon, and her wrist was covered with frost. Even Pang Huang, who was used to seeing all kinds of beauties, had to admit that the girl in front of him wasn't the most beautiful he had ever seen. But that elegant and unrestrained posture, coupled with her beauty, was something he had never seen before. At this time, she suddenly discovered his existence. She was so frightened that she retreated and almost fell into the stream behind her. The faint moonlight poured down on her body, and the water shone on her face. It was as if she was enveloped in a circle of flowing light, making people unable to bear to look away. Pang Huang subconsciously reached out to support her, preventing her from falling into the stream. Seeing his actions, and not sensing any hostility from him, Chu Qingyan's hand on her waist paused, and she dispelled the idea of pulling out her soft sword. She was sitting, and he was standing. She could only see his tall figure when she looked up, but she couldn't see his face. Chu Qingyan felt that she was at a disadvantage, so she quietly lowered her eyes and asked in a low voice, "Who are you? Why are you here?" Pang Huang saw that she was fine, so he retracted his hand that was already in the air, and looked at her with his hands behind his back. "Passing by." His voice was very pleasant to the ears, more intoxicating than the wind in the valley at dusk. But Chu Qingyan wasn't bewitched. Passing by. Could there be such a coincidence? Chapter 592. Chu Qingyan's eyes swept over his robes. They were made with high-grade workmanship and high-quality fabric. The style did not look like a Sichuan style, so it was very likely that it came from another country. Chu Qingyan slightly curled her lips at an angle he couldn't see. Without revealing his identity, he wanted to brush her off by saying he was just passing by. Did he really think he was that easy to fool? So she pretended to gently stroke her chest, looking like she was still in shock. Then she took a cloth from the side to pull up her long hair and slowly stood up. "Young master is in such a good mood, then this little girl won't disturb you." Towards this person who suddenly appeared behind her, she did not have a good impression of him. Although he maintained a certain distance, Chu Qingyan had already classified him as a wastrel. It was not good for her to reveal her identity, so she planned to have Huo Ling and the others investigate why this person suddenly appeared here. "Miss, wait a minute." Pang Huang saw that she was about to leave and immediately called out to her. Chu Qingyan knit her brows. "Young master, is there something else?" Pang Huang did not know why he called out to her, but seeing the defensive look on her face, not being as relaxed as before, he thought about it. "Miss, may I ask if you are someone from the village in front?" Chu Qingyan heard this and looked at him. From this angle, she could clearly see this person's appearance. His sculpted features were peerlessly handsome and his lips were red, giving people an illusion of being flirtatious. His figure was tall and slender and his eyes were filled with arrogance. This was a rarely seen handsome man. But his eyes were very aggressive, making her unconsciously vigilant. With luxurious clothes, an outstanding appearance, and an outstanding temperament, this kind of person was destined to not be a normal person. But why would this kind of person appear here at such a coincidence? Chu Qingyan nodded. "My family lives in the village." "Oh. Then miss, did you see any outsiders in the village?" The young girl in front of him had a pair of clear and bright eyes. In Pang Huang's eyes, this should be a little girl who did not know anything about the world, so he wanted to use this chance to talk to her. "Outsiders? What outsider?" Chu Qingyan looked innocent and curious, but she was on the alert. Looking at her innocently blinking her big eyes, Pang Huang relaxed his guard against her. A rare smile appeared on his face. "It's the mysterious person who suddenly appeared in your village in recent years." Chu Qingyan understood that the man wanted to find out more about the Shaolai mounts. Although it was a secret that Big Ice Cube was sent to Fuli mountain range to search for ores, it was no secret that the assassination had caused such a big commotion. In addition, some people deliberately spread the news, so it was not a secret that Big Ice Cube was sent to search for ores. However, on the surface, everyone knew that the search for ores was just a cover. The real reason was that Sichuan Emperor intended to weaken Big Ice Cube's power. However, perhaps because so many years had passed, these people were also suspicious. What exactly was supporting the Ice Cube to stay in the Fuli mountain range for so long? Therefore, those who liked a lively scene and didn't mind blowing things up probably wanted to join in as well. No, our village has been here for many years. We rarely see outsiders, but, Chu Qingyan pondered. But what? Pang Huang felt comfortable talking to this young girl. At least she wasn't like the girls he had met in the past who kept staring at him with infatuation. She was conversing with him naturally. Chu Qingyan's lips curled into a smile as she looked at him with an unreadable expression. You are the first outsider I have met here. Pang Huang smiled slightly. It seems that just now this one was rude to you. This one is Long Guanghuang. Is it convenient for you to tell me your name? Yan Chu. Chu Qingyan said naturally. This was the first time Pang Huang and Chu Qingyan had met. Then, in this quiet forest, they had a strange conversation. However, neither side seemed to find it strange. But the one thing they had in common was that both of them had used fake names. Two foxes, different methods but with the same result. Miss Yan, if I have offended you, please forgive me. Pang Huang cupped his hands. Chu Qingyan smiled carelessly. There is no sea here, only a stream. Then let's call it Shihan. Pang Huang felt that this girl's words were quite interesting. Standing under the moonlight, her figure was beautiful. He was slightly dazed. When he was about to say something, Chu Qingyan spoke first. Is young Master Long alone? Pang Huang nodded without showing any emotion. I am alone. In that case, why don't you rest in our village for a night? The people in our village are very hospitable. From being timid and afraid just now to gradually opening up after a deep conversation, Chu Qingyan felt that she had played the role very well. Her acting skills had improved by leaps and bounds. And now that she had a plan in mind, she might as well invite him into the jar. Pang Huang hesitated for a moment at the girl's invitation before saying, That's fine. Thank you for your kindness. You're welcome. Chu Qingyan picked up the small bundle. She didn't care that her head was still wrapped in a towel, and cheerfully led him towards the village. As long as this person entered the village, wouldn't he become a turtle in a jar? The ore in the Fuli mountain range was too important to Big Ice Cube. She couldn't allow any mistakes to happen. Just now she tried to feel the other party's martial arts. But she didn't know if it was because this person didn't know martial arts or if his martial arts were unfathomable, but he hid it very well. Chu Qingyan couldn't feel it at all, so she couldn't help but raise her guard. Pang Huang looked at the cheerful figure in front of him and his eyes unknowingly rippled with a trace of a smile. He never thought that there would be a day where he would throw away his identity and casually chat with a strange girl in a strange environment. The two of them chatted casually as they were about to leave the forest. The lights of the village had also spread in front of the two of them. As long as they took another 3 or 4 steps, she and he would be exposed to the light of the fire. Then, the fierce cavalry would discover their existence. But at this time, Chu Qingyan stopped in her tracks. She didn't take another step forward, and the person behind her did the same. The night wind was mixed with a bit of coldness. As it passed through the forest, the two people's robes fluttered gracefully. It should have been a beautiful scene under the moonlight, but it was cold. Chu Qingyan lowered her head to look at the long sword on her shoulder. She couldn't help but smile. Her voice was indiscernible whether she was happy or angry. Young Master Long, what do you mean by this? Pang Huang, who was standing behind her, no longer had the gentle and humble expression on his face. Instead, it was replaced with a cruel and cold expression that looked like a smile that was not a smile. The show has stopped here. It's about time. Oh. What is young Master Long talking about? Why can't Yan Chu understand? Chu Qingyan turned around to look at him. Seeing her slowly turn around without any fear on her face, Pang Huang had a guess in his heart. Looking at her innocent eyes, he sneered. You are a member of the fierce cavalry. Chapter 593. She was one of Xiao Lai's riders. Chu Qingyan felt that it was funny, saying that Xiao Lai was one of her riders would be more accurate. Pang Huang saw that she did not panic after being exposed, and instead laughed in a strange way, and his heart was angry. There was no one who could be so indifferent under the threat of his sword. His fingers moved, and the sword in his hand moved closer to her neck. I want your identity, otherwise you will only have one ending. I want your identity, otherwise you will only have one ending. Chu Qingyan stopped laughing, and calmly returned the words back to him. It seems that you really won't give up until you reach the Yellow River. Pang Huang really only wanted to scare her. He disdained to make a move on a girl. But the girl in front of him not only did not have the self-awareness of being restrained, she even dared to talk back to him. Chu Qingyan tilted her head, as if his sword did not exist, and laughed naturally. Do you believe that when I count to 10, you will be exposed? You think I will believe you? You are a person full of lies. Pang Huang's eyes revealed a trace of contempt. Even though Pang Huang said that, the sword in his hand still approached her once again. This girl was able to think of ways to lure him to the village as soon as she saw him. This proved that this girl was not a simple character. However, he could not figure out what she was thinking at this time. Was it a stalling tactic, or was she really confident? Chu Qingyan gave a faint smile. She knew that he did not believe her. Do you want to give it a try? You count to 10, if I am not able to escape from your grasp, and you are not exposed, then I will tell you my identity. Pang Huang originally did not put the girl's provocation in his eyes, but seeing the determination in her eyes, his battle desire was aroused. 1, 2, Chu Qingyan was stunned. He had actually started counting without greeting her. All was fair in war. She looked at him calmly and then smiled as she opened her mouth to say, all right. Long Guanghuang is not your real name. Pang Huang raised his eyebrows and looked at her, as if to ask her to guess. His mouth continued to count, 3, 4, 5, 6. Chu Qingyan didn't mind his counting and continued, in his country, there are very few people with the surname Long. The girl did not move at all, as if she was really just chatting with him. Pang Huang was very puzzled by her actions, but since she was the one who boasted, he would see how she would struggle before her death. Pang Huang's flirtatious face remained calm. 7, 8, 9, she saw the suspicion in his eyes. Her lips curled into a smile as she slowly said the most important sentence. However, I have heard of Long Guang's Pang surname. Pang Huang was stunned before he could even count to 10. Now is the time. Chu Qingyan suddenly raised her hand and pointed it at his chest. She was so fast that he could only see her sleeves fluttering in the wind. Pang Huang's vision blurred. He seemed to see something flash in her sleeve, and then it quickly flew towards him. It was too close. There was no time to dodge. Pang Huang's body immediately tensed up. He bent down and supported himself with both hands. In a split second, he felt something sharp brush past his cheek. When he got up, he turned around and saw a short arrow stuck in the tree trunk behind him. At this time, the arrow was still vibrating. He felt a burning pain on his cheek. He touched his face and his fingertips were stained with a bit of sticky blood. He rubbed the blood on his fingertips and then turned around to look at the girl who seized the opportunity to quickly retreat when she made her move. She was standing in the light like this, hugging her shoulders. The cloth covering her face had already fallen with her movements. Her long hair fluttered in the wind, and the corner of her mouth held a sly smile. She looked very much like a fox that he had hunted in the past. He was a little far away. He saw her open her mouth but no sound came out. However, he could tell what she wanted to say. You still have a long way to go. Is that so? This was the first time someone dared to shout at him. The sword in his hand felt its master's mood. It suddenly shook and let out a sword cry. Pang Huang did not think too much and quickly slashed his sword towards her. The sword tip slashed across the ground and collided with the rocks, creating sparks. But at this time, 4 black-clothed guards suddenly fell from the sky and attacked Pang Huang from 4 directions. Pang Huang frowned. He immediately stopped his attack on Chu Qingyan and turned to deal with the four people. The swords and blades clashed. Sparks flew everywhere. The commotion quickly alerted the people in the village. Then, there were small footsteps breaking through the air. It was more than enough for him to deal with these four people, but when he heard the sound, he knew that it wasn't just four people. When Pang Huang finally clashed with the four people's swords, he borrowed the force of the collision to flip backwards. He landed on a large tree and looked past the four black-clothed guards who were chasing after him. His gaze landed on the person standing under the moonlight and he looked deeply at him. "I hope you do not fall into my hands, otherwise," he put away his sword and used his qinggong to jump on the tree. Then, he quickly disappeared into the darkness. The four Shaolai riders chased after him. Chu Qingyan narrowed her eyes as she looked in the direction that the person left. He did not want to fight. He was cautious and his martial arts were high. She could not help but think. At this time, she heard familiar footsteps behind her. She had already memorized the sound of his footsteps. What happened? She turned around and saw him walking over with a frown. She brushed her wet hair and told him the truth. "When I was by the stream, I found an unknown person. He asked about our village and intentionally or unintentionally asked about the whereabouts of Shaolai riders. So I wanted to lure him into the village. Who knew that he was too vigilant and actually saw through my thoughts? In the end, he escaped." Xiao Su looked in the direction where there was no one and frowned. "Did you find anything?" "Yes. From the way he dressed, the way he talked, and his martial arts, his status should not be low. I don't think he is someone from the Sichuan. He said his name is Long Guanghuang. I guess his real name should be Pang Huang if we look at it according to the character Zai." Chu Qingyan lowered her brows and thought back to their conversation. She slowly analyzed it. Finally, she looked up. "Big ice block, do you know of a person named Pang Huang or a family in another country with the surname Pang?" Just as she finished speaking, she met Big Ice Block's gaze on her. It seemed a bit strange. She followed his gaze in confusion. She saw that her hair that she did not have time to dry was stuck to her shoulders. Then, water droplets rolled down and wet her clothes. The spring breeze was chilly and the spring clothes were thin. The wet clothes stuck to her skin and faintly revealed, she gave a low cry and hugged her shoulders tightly. She subconsciously turned her back. But she forgot that if the front was wet, how could the back escape the fate of being wet? What should she do? She wanted to dig a hole and escape. Chapter 594. Chu Qingyan was on the verge of breaking down. Just as she was about to explode, a coat suddenly fell from the sky and landed on her body, covering her entire body. She was stunned at first, but then she smelled a familiar fragrance. Quickly put it on, don't catch a cold." Xiao Su looked away and gave a few coughs. His voice was a bit unnatural as he spoke. Her face turned slightly red as she pulled the coat off her head and draped it over her shoulders. So long, it was even mopping the ground. She had clearly grown a lot taller, but why did it feel like a little child wearing an adult's clothes? She clumsily pulled up the corner of the coat and then rolled up the sleeves. She really wanted to cry, it was still so long. Chu Qingyan, who was struggling with her coat, did not hear the approaching footsteps from outside the forest. She only saw a black shadow appear in front of her. Before she could react, a pair of large hands landed on her shoulders. With a slight twist of the coat, the person wrapped it around her neck. In the blink of an eye, the coat fit her height. At this time, Hua Ling and the others had already arrived. "Master." When they raised their heads in greeting, they saw their master's hands on the little princess body in an intimate position. They immediately lowered their heads and did not see anything. Xiao Su naturally moved his hands away. He was very satisfied in his heart. Before his subordinates arrived, he had covered the little fellow well. An unknown person has appeared and the large man has already led people to chase after him. You all should immediately search the forest and see if there are any other accomplices. Xiao Su said with a serious expression. Huo Ling and the others obeyed and quickly entered the forest to begin their search. Chu Qingyan watched as they left. Now, there was only Big Ice Cube and her left. Awkwardness started to spread all over her body once again. The surname Pang is not common. The Southern Sung Country's royal family is surnamed Pang and the Southern Sung Country's crown prince is called Pang Huang. Xiao Su took a step back from her. He put his hand on his lips and explained the question she asked before, trying to resolve the strange atmosphere between them. Chu Qingyan did not expect that she would be able to guess the name by accident. She completely forgot about the awkwardness and raised her head to ask, if that person was really the Southern Sung Country's crown prince, then what did he come here for? Could it be that he also has designs on the Fuli mountain range? Xiao Su glanced at her bright red cheeks, then moved his gaze away without leaving a trace. The Southern Blue Kingdom has been in internal strife recently. Although the position of crown prince has been confirmed, the factions of the princes are still fighting openly and secretly. Logically speaking, Pang Huang shouldn't be here, unless what? Chu Qingyan asked. Unless he has discovered the secret of the rich mountain range and wants a piece of the pie, or he is just curious. Xiao Su shook his head. I don't know much about the Prince of Nansong, so I can't comment on him. But in the Southern Sung Country, this crown prince's evaluation is not low. He is young and talented, brave and good at fighting, and wise and resourceful. Chu Qingyan thought about the person who fought against her and couldn't help but narrow her eyes. You say it like there's another you, but I feel that the Big Ice Cube is much smarter than him. Xiao Su was very pleased with her natural praise for him. He reached out his hand to gather her clothes again and lightly said, no matter who this person is, he must have an ulterior motive for appearing here. It's best if we can catch him, but if we can't, then we have to be more vigilant and be careful. Xiao Su said so much, but Chu Qingyan did not listen to a single word. Because he was close, she once again lost the ability to think. But Xiao Su did not notice her abnormality. Instead, he bent down to pick up the cloth on the ground, shook off the grass on it, and then covered her long hair with it, helping her rub her hair in an unskilled manner. Such a big person running around with wet hair, aren't you worried about catching a cold? His words were lecturing, but his gaze unconsciously softened. She did not think that he would personally help her dry her hair. When his fingers weaved through her hair, the long-lost helplessness and heat rose up in her body once again. She immediately took the cloth and carelessly wiped her hair, then answered his words, if there was something in the house that could be used to wash up, I wouldn't have come out. But it's because I came out that I had such an unexpected harvest, right? Her tone was deliberately relaxed, so no one could tell that she was currently overwhelmed with emotions. Xiao Su saw that she was wiping her hair in a disorderly manner, so he did not make a move and slowly brought her back to the village. Once they returned to the room, Chu Qingyan threw herself onto the bed. She rolled around in the blankets, her face burning. So embarrassing. So embarrassing. Once again, he had embarrassed himself to the core. After rolling around a few times, she remembered that she had not bathed yet. Her body was sticky and she wanted to roll around again. But at this time, there was a knock on the door. Chu Qingyan opened the door and saw that it was Lu Guang. Little princess, master ordered this subordinate to bring you hot water. The strong man and his subordinates are used to being on the battlefield and forgot that you are a woman. If we don't take care of you well, please don't take offense. Saying this, Lu Guang brought in a wooden bucket and hot water. Chu Qingyan shook her head, it's me who is spoiled, causing you to come in the middle of the night. Lu Guang smiled and left with his people. When she was soaking in the hot water, Chu Qingyan felt her body's tiredness dissipate quite a bit. She sighed in her heart. Big Ice Cube was really a person who was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. She had only said it and he had ordered people to bring her hot water without saying a word. She gave a soft sigh. She really wanted to cling to him like this. In Xiao Su's room, Huo Ling and the strong man were standing there to report the situation. Master, this subordinate was incompetent and lost the person. The strong man lowered his head and blamed himself. Their fierce cavalry rarely lost people, so it had to be said that tonight was a shame. Xiao Su nodded. The person who came has high martial arts, so it's normal that you couldn't catch up. Huo Ling also followed up and reported, subordinates have searched the entire forest and did not find any other suspicious people. Increase the patrols. It's better to kill 3,000 wrongly than to let one go. We'll enter the Fuli mountain range tomorrow. Go and deploy. Xiao Su waved his hand to have them leave. When he was the only one left in the room, his eyes unconsciously fell onto the candlelight. It was as if he could see through the light and see those soft and supple shoulders, as well as, he immediately closed his eyes and forced himself to sweep away these distracting thoughts. On a mountain not far from the village, Pang Huang stood in the wind with an unfathomable expression. Your Highness, do you want to treat the wound on your face? Qing Feng held the ointment and looked at the person in front of him with some hesitation. It was hard for him to imagine that His Highness had just gone out for a walk and then was attacked by someone who had this kind of ability. It's not a problem, it's just a couple. They'll be gone in 2 days. Pang Huang felt a slight pain on his face, just like what that woman had said to him. His face sank. Your Highness, are we still going to the Fuli mountain range tomorrow? The plan remains the same. Yes. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.